The key went in but wouldn't turn. I pulled it out, wiped it on my jeans, and tried again, because 11 months away can make a person stupid about familiar things. The brass key had opened that red door for 12 years. I had sanded 3 layers of paint off the frame myself. Peter and I had argued for an entire Saturday over the color, then eaten pizza on the bare living room floor because we'd spent our dinner money on better hinges. The lock did not care about any of that. I set down my duffel and rang the bell. Peter's sister opened the door, barefoot, holding my blue stoneware mug. "Oh," Lacey said, "you're here. Not welcome home, not let me get your brother. Just mild surprise, as if I were a delivery that had arrived outside the estimated window. By midnight, Peter would tell me my deployment had been my choice. Standing on my own porch, staring at a woman who apparently had better access to my house than I did, I still didn't know what choice he thought I'd made. Lacey recovered quickly. She set the mug on the entry table and came at me with both arms open. "Mara, God, look at you." I accepted the hug because stepping away would have required more energy than I had. She smelled like my rosemary hand soap. "You're so skinny," she said into my hair. "You always say that. You always are. That isn't how always works." She laughed too loudly, then held me at arm's length. Lacey was 45, 5 years older than me, with Peter's gray-green eyes and none of his hesitation. Her blonde hair was twisted into a clip I recognized from the bathroom drawer. For a second, I wondered if everything in the house had become communal property, except the front door. "The lock," I said. "What? My key doesn't work." "Oh, right." Her hand flew to her chest. "Peter didn't tell you?" "Apparently not. There was that burglary 2 streets over. Not here, obviously. But he got nervous and changed all the locks. Smart, really. The locksmith gave us a deal because we did the back door too. Us." I looked past her. The entry table had been moved to the opposite wall. A round mirror hung where our wedding photograph used to be. Lacey followed my eyes and touched the base of her throat again. "We moved some things around." "I see that. You'll get used to it." She smiled when she said it, which made the sentence worse. My duffel stayed on the porch until I bent to retrieve it myself. Lacey said, "Oh, let me," at exactly the moment I already had the straps in my hand. I carried it inside and stopped on the little patch of hardwood where Peter and I had once found his missing wedding ring under a radiator. The house smelled like cinnamon wax and something tomato-based simmering in the kitchen. "You cooked?" I did the sauce. "Peter's handling the rest." "Peter is cooking?" "Don't look so shocked. Your absence created a whole new man." There were several answers available to me. Fatigue picked silence. Lacey shut the door. The new deadbolt slid home with a smooth, expensive click. "Where is he?" "Garage. He wanted to finish something before you got here. He knew what time I was coming. I think he lost track." My husband had spent 12 years believing anything scheduled within a 2-hour window counted as punctual. I knew that about him. I had even loved it sometimes, the way he could follow a crooked line into an entire afternoon. Still, I had sent him my arrival time 3 days earlier, then again that morning. I walked toward the kitchen. The old pine floors squeaked in all the right places, but the rooms around them felt staged by someone who knew my taste and had decided to improve it. The deep green curtains were gone. The couch had moved under the front windows. My photographs, my father changing a tire in the rain, June and me after our first guard training, Peter asleep in a lawn chair with a paperback over his face, had been gathered onto one narrow shelf beside the television. Lacey noticed me looking. "It was getting visually busy," she said. "You know how these old houses are." "I do know how this old house is." "Of course you do." "I just meant." The door from the garage opened. Peter came in carrying a cabinet hinge and wearing safety glasses on top of his head. For one unguarded second, his face looked exactly right. His mouth fell open. The hinge hit the floor. Then he crossed the kitchen in 4 long steps and wrapped both arms around me. There he was, sawdust, laundry soap, coffee, home, in the form I had used to measure it. "You're early," he said against my neck. "No, I'm not. You are to me. That's not a time zone." He pulled back and grinned, and I hated how relieved I was by that grin. Peter had a thin scar through his left eyebrow from walking into a shelf I'd warned him about twice. I touched it with my thumb before I could stop myself. "Hi," he said softly. "Hi?" He kissed me. It was familiar for half a second and then strange, his hand landing too carefully at my waist, my body waiting for some signal that never came. We both felt it. He stepped back first. "You look good," he said. "Lacey says I'm skinny." "You're always skinny," Lacey called. I looked at Peter. "See? That's not how always works." He laughed, not too loudly, correctly. Some tight place in my chest loosened. Then Lacey handed him her mug, and he took it without looking, rinsed it, and placed it in the dishwasher. A small thing. An ordinary thing. The kind of practiced exchange people develop by being around each other every day. Peter noticed my duffel in the hall. "You carried that in?" "I've carried heavier." "I know that. I just meant I would have gotten it. You were busy." His eyes flicked to Lacey. "I was finishing the shelves for her inventory," he said. "They've been all over the place." "Where?" "The office." "My office?" Lacey opened the oven, releasing a blast of heat. Temporarily, I walked down the hall before either of them could offer a guided tour. The door to my office was open. The desk Peter had built me was gone. In its place stood 2 white folding tables covered with fabric, cardboard boxes, a printer, padded envelopes, ribbon, and little wooden signs that said things like, "Blessed and Gather." Metal shelves lined the wall where my service photographs and framed transit certifications had hung. Plastic bins were labeled Spring Florals, Christmas, and Farmhouse. I had never understood why farmhouse decor required so many factories. My filing cabinet sat in the corner behind a stack of shipping boxes. Someone had placed a potted plant on top of it. "I'm doing better than I expected," Lacey said from behind me. "The online shop really took off around the holidays. That's good." I told Peter I could rent a storage unit, but he said that was ridiculous when this room was sitting empty. It wasn't empty. No one spoke for a beat. "You know what I mean," Peter said. He had followed us into the hall. "You weren't using it." "I was in Kuwait." "Yes, that's what I mean." His tone wasn't cruel. That almost made it harder to object. I stepped around the boxes and pulled open the filing cabinet. My insurance folder was still in the front. Vehicle titles behind it. Tax returns below. Nothing looked disturbed. "Where's the desk?" "Garage," Peter said. "Covered." "With what?" "A moving blanket." "What's on top of the moving blanket?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "Some tools." Lacey leaned against the doorframe. "We can move everything. Not today, obviously, but whenever you're ready." I looked at the room. Ready for what? To have it back. I was too tired to determine whether that was generosity or permission. Peter reached for my hand. His palm was warm and rough, the side of his thumb marked by a healing cut. I turned his hand over automatically. What happened? Chisel. "You need a new chisel. I need better judgment." "You've needed that for years." "There she is," he said, smiling. I let him lead me upstairs. Our bedroom looked almost unchanged until I opened the closet. Peter's clothes occupied his usual side. Lacey's clothes occupied half of mine. Floral blouses, long cardigans, a sequined dress with the dry cleaning tag still attached. My uniforms and civilian clothes had been compressed into the remaining space, some hanging, some folded into clear bins on the floor. "She needed the downstairs closet for packing supplies," Peter said. Of course she did. "She was only supposed to put a few things in here." "I had a few things when I arrived," Lacey said from the hall. Life expanded. I closed the closet door. Peter had put flowers on my nightstand, supermarket lilies still in their plastic sleeve. Beside them sat a framed photograph of the two of us on our 10th anniversary, laughing at something outside the frame. I remembered what it was. The waiter had dropped a cork into a woman's purse, and she hadn't noticed. "I wanted to pick you up," Peter said. "I really did. You said the cabinet install couldn't move." "It couldn't. The client's moving in Monday. I took a car. It was fine. You always say things are fine when they're not." I learned that from you." He sat on the edge of the bed. "Mara." I looked at him. Really looked. There was more gray at his temples. A pale band circled his wrist where his watch usually sat. He seemed tired, but not in a way I recognized. Peter's old exhaustion was loose and boyish. He would drop his shoes in the kitchen, declare himself dead, then eat half a bag of chips standing over the sink. This tiredness was guarded. It watched me watching him. "I'm glad you're home," he said. "I'm glad to be home." The lie was small enough that we both let it pass. He patted the bed beside him. I sat, leaving 6 inches between us. For months I had imagined this moment in embarrassingly ordinary detail. His knee against mine, his fingers in my hair, the sound of him breathing without a delay in the connection. I had pictured taking off my boots at the door and not putting them back on for days. Instead, Lacey called up the stairs. "Do we think 6:30 or 7?" I waited for Peter to tell her we weren't having company. He called back, 6:30. Mom hates driving after dark. I turned toward him. "Your mother is coming. Just family. Tonight? We thought you'd want everyone here. I've been traveling for 20 hours. "I know. That's why Lacey cooked. That does not solve the traveling." His expression changed, not much. "We can tell them to keep it short." I looked at the lilies, their unopened heads wrapped tight as fists. Who is everyone? Mom, Danny and Melissa, maybe Rob. So 6 people, 7 with Lacey, 8 with us. He smiled as if the correction meant I was joining in. 8 with us. I stood. My knees made a noise that belonged to someone older. "I need a shower." "Sure. Take your time." In the bathroom, my drawer held a hairdryer I didn't own, 3 bottles of skin serum, and a pink electric toothbrush. My things had been moved into a wicker basket beneath the sink. On top sat a note in Lacey's handwriting, "Mara's stuff." I shut the bathroom door and locked it. For a while, I did nothing. I stood with both hands on the sink and stared at my face in the mirror. I had spent 11 months knowing exactly where my gear belonged, which shelf held which part, which vehicle could move, and which one only looked like it could. If something changed, somebody logged it. Here, my life had been rearranged without a single person thinking I needed to be told. Peter tapped gently on the door. "You okay?" "Fine." A pause. "Mom's bringing that cake you like." "Which cake?" Another pause. Longer this time. "The lemon one?" I closed my eyes. I hated lemon cake. "Great," I said. His footsteps moved away. Downstairs, Lacey laughed at something, and Peter answered in the easy voice I had been waiting almost a year to hear. I turned on the shower so no one would hear me not crying. I stayed under the water until it went lukewarm. The pressure was weaker than I remembered. Someone had replaced the shower head with one of those wide rainfall things that looked luxurious and felt like standing beneath a polite leak. When I opened the bathroom door, Peter was gone. Clean jeans and a blue shirt lay across the bed. He had chosen them from the clear bins and smoothed the sleeves flat. The shirt was mine, but I didn't remember buying it. I checked the label. Lacey's size. I put on a black sweater I found under 2 uniforms and carried the blue shirt downstairs. Lacey was at the stove, tasting sauce from a wooden spoon. She had changed into a cream blouse and reapplied her makeup. Peter stood at the kitchen island slicing bread with the concentration of a surgeon. "I think this is yours," I said. Lacey glanced over. Oh, that was sweet of him. Peter looked from the shirt to me. "It was in your bin." "It was on top of my bin," Lacey said. "Okay. Sorry." He said it lightly, but color rose above his collar. I handed the shirt to Lacey. "Black looks better on you anyway," she said. "Good save," Peter told her. "I'm excellent under pressure. You sell wooden signs." Christmas was brutal. The doorbell rang before I could leave the kitchen. Evelyn entered with a cake carrier in both hands and her purse tucked under one arm. She was 68 and still wore her silver hair in the same smooth chin-length bob she'd had when Peter and I married. Rain, humidity, and family funerals had failed to move it. She set the cake on the entry table, then held my face between her palms. There she is, here I am. My goodness, you're thin. Apparently, it's an eternal condition. She kissed both my cheeks. You look tired. I am tired. Well, tonight will perk you right up. Behind her came Danny and Melissa, carrying wine and a salad. Danny was Peter's older cousin, but had been raised close enough to him that everybody called them brothers when they didn't feel like explaining. Melissa gave me a hug with one arm and kept hold of the salad with the other. I told him this was too much for your first night, she whispered. I liked Melissa in that moment more than I ever had. Rob arrived last, empty-handed and unapologetic. He was an old family friend who had been attending Quinn holidays so long no one remembered the original invitation. He hugged me hard enough to press the air from my lungs. America, he said grandly. Still here? You're welcome. I'll notify the Pentagon. That's all I ask. Peter opened the wine. Lacey directed people toward bowls and serving spoons. I stood in the kitchen I had designed, watching everyone move through a pattern they already knew. Danny found the trivets without asking. Melissa took wine glasses from the upper cabinet where Peter and I used to keep mixing bowls. Evelyn carried silverware to the dining room, then came back for napkins stored in a drawer that had once held tools and batteries. Why are the napkins there? I asked Peter. Lacey reorganized. Of course she did. It makes more sense. I put the drawer slides in that cabinet. He kept his voice low. Can we not do this right now? Do what? Make everything a thing. Lacey called from the dining room, Mara, we saved your chair. My chair was at the far end of the table, the one closest to the kitchen door. I used to sit at the head, not because I required a throne, but because the head had the clearest path to the stove. Lacey sat there now, a folded napkin beneath her fork and the sauce bowl to her right. Peter pulled out the chair beside his. Here, he said. Sit with me. That chair belonged to Evelyn, who looked briefly stranded. I can move, I said. No. Evelyn waved me down. You two should sit together. She settled into my old chair. Lacey passed the bread. The first several minutes were safe. People asked about the flight, the food, whether I had slept. Rob wanted to know if sand really got into everything. I told him Kuwait had modern plumbing and excellent cellular service. So not tense? He asked. Not where I was. Huh. He seemed disappointed for me. Danny raised his glass. To Mara. Home safe. Everyone drank. I thanked them. Then he raised it again, and to Peter, for keeping the home fires burning. Peter shook his head, smiling. Don't? No, seriously, Evelyn said. People don't think about the spouse who stays behind. I thought about him, I said. Evelyn touched my wrist. Of course you did, sweetheart. I only mean it was a deployment for him, too, in a way. No, Peter said. It wasn't. I looked at him, grateful. It was more like extended camping with indoor plumbing, he added. Everyone laughed. Peter glanced at me as if inviting me to join. I lifted my water glass. Lacey passed me the sauce. He really did become very self-sufficient. He was self-sufficient before. Oh, sure. But not domestically. I lived alone for 6 years, Peter said. And ate over the sink for 6 years, Evelyn replied. He still does that, I said. That earned a better laugh. Peter bumped his knee against mine beneath the table and left it there. The warmth of it hurt. Dinner might have found its balance if Evelyn hadn't asked about the water heater. Did Peter tell you what happened? He mentioned it. Middle of January, she said. The coldest week we had. He came down one morning and there was water everywhere. Not everywhere, Peter said. The utility room, Lacey clarified. But it felt like everywhere. I had towels down within 5 minutes. You were amazing, Evelyn told Peter. He gave a modest shrug. You deal with what's in front of you. I chewed a piece of bread. Lacey leaned toward me. He handled the plumber, the replacement, all of it. The installer, I said. What? It was an installer, not a plumber. The plumber couldn't get the same unit for 10 days, so I found one at a supplier in Nashville and scheduled their installer. The room went quiet enough that I could hear Rob cutting a tomato. Peter took a drink of wine. We all handled it. I paid for it, too. I didn't say you didn't. You said you handled all of it. I said I dealt with what was in front of me. After I put it there. Melissa studied her salad. Danny took a sudden interest in the wine label. Evelyn gave my wrist another pat, slower this time. I'm sure you did everything you could from where you were. It was meant kindly. That was the problem with Evelyn. She could reduce you to a supporting role while sounding like she was giving you a medal. Peter's knee moved away from mine. Lacey stood and gathered plates before anyone finished. Who wants cake? Not me, I said. You haven't seen it. It's lemon. Evelyn paused with her fork halfway to her mouth. You love my lemon cake. No, Peter loves your lemon cake. I could have sworn. It's fine. Peter exhaled through his nose. Mara? It is. I don't have to eat it. Lacey carried the plates into the kitchen. I have ice cream. Is it lemon? Rob asked. Melissa kicked him under the table. What? I'm gathering intelligence. I laughed despite myself, one sharp sound. Rob smiled, pleased to have located an exit. Dessert lasted another 40 minutes. They wanted stories, but only certain kinds. Rob asked if anyone had tried to flirt with me. Danny asked whether I got to fire the big guns, though he knew I worked vehicle maintenance and supply. Evelyn wanted to know if I had ever been afraid. When I took 2 seconds too long to answer, she said, You don't have to talk about it with the solemn eagerness of someone hoping I wouldn't. So I told them about a lieutenant who backed a forklift into a portable toilet and tried to write it up as wind damage. That story traveled well. No one had to picture me lonely or furious or awake at 3 a.m. waiting for Peter to call. Evelyn left first. She hugged Peter in the entryway and whispered something that made him look at me over her shoulder. Danny and Melissa followed. Melissa squeezed my hand before she went. Rob lingered beside the cake. You sure you don't want a piece? I'm sure. Can I take 2? Take the whole thing. Evelyn heard from the porch. Peter gets half. Rob looked wounded. Communism. When the door closed behind him, the house changed temperature. Peter gathered glasses. Lacey wrapped leftovers. Their movements were quick and practiced, a crew breaking down after an event. I carried my plate to the sink. You don't have to clean, Lacey said. I know how. I meant you should rest. I've been sitting for 2 hours. Peter put a hand on the counter. She's trying to be nice. I know. Then maybe let her. Lacey pressed plastic wrap over the sauce. I'm going upstairs. I watched her leave the kitchen and turn toward the staircase. Upstairs where? I asked. Peter stacked 2 plates. The guest room. She's sleeping here tonight? She lives here. He said it before he could soften it. The refrigerator hummed behind me. Somewhere upstairs, a closet door slid open. I thought the plan was 6 weeks. The plan changed. I gathered that she had nowhere stable to go. The shop started doing well, and it made no sense for her to waste money on rent while you were gone. While I was gone. Don't pull one phrase out of what I said. When is she leaving? He set the plates down. You just got home. Exactly. So maybe don't make your first order of business throwing my sister onto the street. I asked for a date. She's family. So am I. No one said you weren't. I couldn't open the front door, Peter. I forgot about the key. You forgot I needed access to my own house. I forgot to mail you a key to a house you weren't physically in. He hurt himself. His jaw shifted. I kept my voice level. I want a few days alone with my husband. I want my office back. I want my clothes in my closet, and I want to know why everyone at that table talked about me like I'd taken a year-long vacation at your expense. Peter stared past me at the dark kitchen window. You want to know what this was like? He said. Every day, something went wrong, and you were 8 time zones away with a checklist for how I should fix it. I found solutions because you called me. I called my wife. And I answered. You answered like a supervisor. That's not fair. No, Mara, fair would have been you coming home and noticing that we survived. Instead, you walked in, making an inventory of everything we did wrong. Your sister's clothes are in my closet because you weren't here. I was deployed. You re-enlisted. I went still. Peter rubbed both hands over his face. When he lowered them, the guarded tiredness was gone. Something meaner had been living beneath it. I looked at him for a long time. Then I nodded once. "All right." He frowned. "All right what? If that's how choices work, then what I do next is mine." I went upstairs, stepped into our bedroom, and closed the door before he could follow. This key still worked. Peter tried the knob less than a minute later. "Mara." I set my duffel on the bed. "Mara, open the door. Not tonight. We need to talk. You just did." His hand left the knob. I could picture him standing there with his head lowered, one palm against the frame. He did that when he was trying not to say something worse. For years, I had mistaken the pause for gentleness. Sometimes it was. Sometimes it was just reloading. "I didn't mean it the way it sounded," he said. "Then tell me how you meant it." The hall went quiet. Upstairs, plumbing groaned. Lacey was running water in the guest bathroom, giving us privacy with all the subtlety of a fire hose. Peter lowered his voice. "I've had wine. You had 2 glasses. I'm tired. So am I. You got home ready for a fight. I got home without a key. That was an oversight. Go to bed, Peter. This is my bedroom." "Yes." Another silence. He let out a breath that shuddered at the end. "I'm not sleeping on the couch in my own house." Then ask Lacey to share the guest room. The bathroom water stopped. "That was cheap," he said. "It was. I heard him walk away." I sat on the mattress without taking off my shoes. The clean jeans he had selected for me still lay at the foot of the bed, their legs perfectly aligned. He had remembered that I preferred dark denim. He had forgotten which shirts belonged to his sister. That should not have felt like a summary of our marriage. But exhaustion is not known for nuance. I unwrapped the lilies. The plastic crackled too loudly. There was no vase, so I filled a tall drinking glass in the bathroom and set them inside. One stem sagged sideways. Downstairs, cabinet doors opened and closed. Lacey murmured something. Peter answered too quietly for me to hear. Their voices moved through the house with the ease of people finishing a familiar night. My phone showed messages from everyone who had been at dinner. Evelyn. So wonderful having the family together again. Melissa. I'm sorry. I should have tried harder to stop the dinner. Rob. I have secured the cake. Operation successful. Peter's message arrived while I was reading Rob's. Please unlock the door. I turned the phone face down. The closet held one of my old t-shirts, and I changed into it. I put my jeans over the back of a chair the way I always had, then moved them because someone had placed a decorative throw there. The throw had tassels, which made it useless for every purpose associated with blankets. I lay down. The mattress dipped differently on Peter's side. His pillow smelled like him, but also faintly like Lacey's lavender detergent. I rolled toward the window and watched headlights move across the ceiling when cars passed outside. At some point, a floorboard creaked in the hall. The bedroom knob turned once, gently. Then Peter went downstairs again. I slept for 52 minutes. At 4:16, I got up and packed. Not everything. I wasn't surrendering the house or staging an extraction. I packed enough for a week: clothes, toiletries, medication, chargers, 2 uniforms, running shoes, and the black boots I wore to work. I retrieved my important folders from the office filing cabinet, moving Lacey's potted plant to the floor so I could open the top drawer without crushing its leaves. I took my transit laptop from beneath a stack of padded mailers. The house was quiet except for the refrigerator and Peter snoring on the living room couch. He had one arm over his face and a blanket pulled to his waist. The blanket had tassels, too. Apparently, we owned several unusable blankets now. I stood beside him longer than I meant to. His bare foot extended beyond the couch cushion. A dent in his shin marked where he had walked into our coffee table years earlier. I had iced it while he insisted the table had shifted. He looked older asleep, softer, and less certain. The man who had told me I chose to leave was also the man who mailed me a box of socks because I once mentioned the laundry dryers were eating them. He had included 12 packs of gum, 3 crossword books, and a jar of salsa I couldn't open without borrowing a wrench. I wanted him to wake up and become that man by seeing my bag. He kept snoring. In the kitchen, I found coffee already loaded into the machine. The label on the filter basket said 6 cups in Lacey's handwriting. I pressed the button and called June. She answered on the 5th ring with, "Who died?" "No one." "Then why are you calling before sunrise? Is the apartment over your garage still empty?" A rustle, then a click. "Her bedside lamp, probably." "You home?" "Since yesterday." "And you're already looking for somewhere else?" "Yes." "Did Peter hit you?" "No." "Threaten you?" "No." "Cheat?" "I don't think so." "You don't think so" is not an answer people enjoy at 5 in the morning. He changed the locks and forgot to give me a key. Lacey lives here now. She has my office, half my closet, and apparently command of the napkin drawer. June was silent. "What did he say?" she asked. "He said I chose the deployment." The silence changed. June and I had met 13 years earlier when we were both guard sergeants, and she informed me during our first conversation that my load plan was ugly. She had been right. She'd left the guard after a back injury and now managed inventory for a commercial plumbing supplier, where she spent her days telling men named Dale that no, the computer had not personally stolen their purchase orders. "The apartment is furnished," she said. "Mostly." What does mostly mean? It has a bed, a couch, and 2 chairs. One chair is emotionally a table. How much? Mara. How much, June? She named a monthly rate close to what she charged her last tenant. That works. You don't have to. I'm paying rent, I know. I was going to say you don't have to commit for a month. I know what you were going to say. Liar. The coffee machine hissed. I can be there in an hour. You can be here in 90 minutes. I'm not putting on pants for your marital crisis before 6. That's fair. And Mara? Yes? I'm glad you're back. My throat closed without warning. Me too, I said, which was not true yet. Lacey came into the kitchen wearing a long gray robe and the pink electric toothbrush in her mouth. She stopped when she saw my duffel. Foam gathered at the corner of her lips. She pointed at the bag. I poured coffee. She disappeared into the downstairs bathroom, rinsed, then returned with the robe belted tighter. "Where are you going?" "June's." "Who's June?" "You've met her. The intense one?" "That narrows nothing down. The one with the braid who corrected Peter's grill setup. He was using lighter fluid beside a propane tank. So, yes." I drank the coffee. It was stronger than Peter used to make it. Lacey folded her arms. "He didn't mean what he said." "You heard? These walls are old." "So is his resentment, apparently. He missed you. He has a strange way of showing it. You don't know what it was like here." The sentence landed harder from her than it had from Peter. I set down the mug. "You're right." She blinked. "I don't know what it was like here because no one told me. Every time I asked, Peter said things were fine. You sent pictures of dinners and projects and told me not to worry. You both worked very hard to make sure I didn't know what was happening in my own house. We were protecting you." "From what?" "Distractions? Stress? You had a job to do, and now that I'm home?" Her arms loosened. "Now you're acting like we conspired against you. I'm acting like I want some space. I can stay with Mom for a few nights. A few nights won't solve this." "What would?" "A move-out date." Her face changed. Not guilt. Fear. My business is here. My life is here. You have another life. You have work. The guard. All those people who understand that part of you. This is all I've got right now." There it was, so naked and frightened that my anger briefly lost its footing. Lacey's engagement had lasted nearly 4 years. She had planned her weeks around a man who left her for someone he met at a cycling club. Her online shop wasn't just wooden signs. It was the first thing she had built after being discarded. I understood why she had needed a room. I did not understand why it had to remain mine. "I'm sorry for what happened to you," I said, "but needing somewhere to land doesn't make this your house." Her mouth tightened. "I never said it was." "You told me I'd get used to it. That came out wrong. A lot of things are doing that." Peter appeared in the kitchen doorway, hair flattened on one side. His gaze went from me to Lacey to the duffel. "What's going on?" "Mara's leaving," Lacey said. He looked at me. What? I'm staying at June's. You just got home. I know, so you're walking out. I picked up my folders from the counter. I'm making space before we say things we can't take back. That's not what this is. This is punishment. No. Punishment is telling your whole family I abandoned you, then making me sit through a dinner where they congratulate you for surviving me. His eyes flicked toward Lacey. She stepped back. I'm going upstairs. Don't, Peter said. You haven't done anything wrong. I looked at him. He saw it too late. I didn't mean, you keep saying that. Peter came closer, stopping when I stepped around the island. Stay, he said. We'll clear the office today. Lacey can move her clothes. I'll get you a key. That is not the conversation we need. Then tell me what conversation you want. The one where my service isn't treated like something I did to you. His face shut. I lifted the duffel. I'll come back when you can have that conversation without making me guilty for being gone. And until then, I don't know. That's not a plan. No, it's a boundary. He hated the word. I watched him decide whether to argue with it. I opened the front door. Do you even have a key to get back in? He asked. I looked over my shoulder. No, I said. You made sure of that. Then I stepped outside and pulled the red door closed behind me. My truck was parked where I had left it 11 months earlier, beneath the pecan tree at the edge of the driveway. It had a new scratch along the passenger door and an air freshener shaped like a pine tree hanging from the mirror. I threw my duffel onto the passenger seat and turned the key. The engine started immediately. Of course it did. Peter would have driven it every few weeks, checked the oil, kept the battery charged. He could maintain a machine for an absent wife. It was the wife herself who had become an inconvenience. The porch light came on behind me. In the mirror, Peter stood in the open doorway wearing a t-shirt and sweatpants, one hand braced against the red frame. Lacey appeared over his shoulder in her gray robe. I backed out before either of them could come down the steps. June lived 20 minutes away on 5 wooded acres she claimed she'd bought for privacy, and then filled with security lights bright enough to land aircraft. When I turned into her gravel drive, every light snapped on at once. A raccoon near the trash cans froze in judgment. June came out of the garage wearing cargo pants, unlaced boots, and a sweatshirt that said, "Ask me about my terrible attitude." Her dark braid hung over one shoulder. She had dressed, but only technically. She watched me get out. "That all you brought?" "For now." "Good. I hate moving furniture before coffee." She hugged me without asking. June's hugs were brief and structurally sound. Then she took one of my folders, refused the duffel when I offered it, and led me around the side of the detached garage. The apartment stairs were exterior, narrow and steeper than code probably allowed. I followed her up, one hand on the rail. My body objected to every step in a different language. June unlocked the door. "Luxury," she announced. The apartment was one open room except for the bathroom. A half wall separated the bed from a sitting area. The couch was brown, the rug was gray, and 2 wooden chairs stood beside a square patch of floor where a dining table should have been. "Which one is emotionally the table?" I asked. "The left one. It's more stable." A small kitchen ran along the back wall. June had stocked the refrigerator with eggs, butter, coffee creamer, and a 6-pack of beer. "I'm paying you back for groceries. They came with the apartment. The last tenant wanted 6 eggs and beer. The last tenant left mustard. I threw that in free. I set my duffel beside the bed. The room smelled faintly of cedar and the lemon cleaner June used on everything. Sunlight came through blinds that were all tilted at the same angle. "You cleaned. I cleaned between tenants. You haven't had a tenant in 4 months. I had a feeling." "No, you didn't." "No?" She leaned against the kitchen counter. "But it sounds nicer than saying I clean when I'm angry." I looked out the window. From there, I could see the roof of June's house through the trees and a narrow slice of the road beyond it. Nothing in the room belonged to me. Nothing had been moved to make room for someone else. June pointed toward the bathroom. "Water takes a minute to get hot. Jiggle the toilet handle if it keeps running. Don't use the outlet by the bed and the microwave at the same time unless you want to meet the breaker box. Got it. You start work Monday? Yes. You told them you landed yesterday? Yes. Idiots. I chose the date. Idiot. She picked up her truck keys from the counter. I have to leave in 20 minutes. You need anything? No. That answer has never been true in human history. I need sleep, then sleep. She started toward the door, then stopped. Do you want me to hate Peter? The question was so specifically June that I nearly laughed. Not yet. Do you want me to dislike him in a provisional capacity? You already dislike him. I dislike his beard. I've remained neutral on the man. He doesn't have a beard. Exactly. He has an extended shaving delay. I sat on the edge of the bed. June's expression softened. Call if you need me to come back. I won't. I know. After she left, I locked the door and unpacked. I put my toiletries in the bathroom cabinet. My clothes went into an empty dresser. Civilian on the left, uniforms on the right. I lined my boots against the wall and placed the folders on the kitchen counter. It took 11 minutes. Then there was nothing to do. I lay down without pulling the blanket over me. The mattress was too firm, the pillow too high, and the refrigerator made a ticking noise every time the compressor shut off. I woke to my phone vibrating beneath my hip. For a second, I didn't know where I was. My hand reached toward Peter's side of the bed and found a wall. The light had shifted. The clock on the microwave read 12:43. Peter had sent 7 messages. Did you get there safe? Please let me know you got there. Mara, this is ridiculous. I'm sorry. That came out wrong. I'm having a new key made. Mom wants to know if you want to come over for dinner tomorrow. Call me. Lacey had sent one. I never wanted to replace you. I read that sentence twice. It was the first thing either of them had said that sounded as if they understood what I was seeing, and I hated her for understanding it before Peter did. I answered him first. I'm safe. I need today. 3 dots appeared immediately. We need to solve this. I set the phone down. It rang. I watched Peter's name fill the screen until it stopped. Then it rang again. On the 3rd call, I answered. Hello? Are you serious? I said I needed today. You also said you'd come back when we talked. I'm trying to talk. You're trying to make me come home. Because that's where you live. I couldn't get through the door. I'm fixing the key. The key is not the problem. It was the first thing you mentioned. Because it was a useful warning. A warning of what? That you built a new arrangement and forgot I'd be returning to it. He made a frustrated sound. In the background, I heard cupboard doors. He was in our kitchen. I didn't forget you were coming home. You forgot what coming home meant. What does that even mean, Mara? It means I shouldn't have to negotiate for my office, my closet, and time alone with my husband. I told Lacey she needs to move her clothes. Did you tell her she needs to move? Silence. Peter. She's looking at options. When did that happen? This morning. After I left. Yes, after you left. Because apparently that's what it takes to get a straight answer out of you. I sat up. You told me she lived there. That sounded straight. I meant temporarily. 11 months is not temporary. She couldn't sign a lease when her income was unpredictable. That's between you and her. You made it between all 3 of us without asking me. I did ask you before you left. You asked if she could stay 6 weeks. And then your unit got activated. So my deployment extended her invitation. Our circumstances changed. Mine did too. Nobody offered me half a closet. That's not fair. The phrase again. I pressed my thumb between my eyes. Did you tell your family what you said to me last night? What does my family have to do with this? They spent 2 hours congratulating you for enduring my absence. Then you told me I chose to abandon you. It seems connected. I never used the word abandon. You didn't need to. He lowered his voice. I'm not discussing our marriage with my mother. You already did. That's how she knew what to celebrate. He breathed through his nose. I could see him doing it. Can I come over? He asked. No. I made you a key. I'll get it later. I want to see you. The ache behind my ribs was immediate and humiliating. "I want to see you too," I said. His next breath caught. "Then let me come." "No. What am I supposed to do with that? Sit with it." That sounds like something June would say. June would say it with profanity. He almost laughed. I heard the beginning of it, then nothing. "Tomorrow," I said. "We can talk tomorrow." "Where?" "I don't know yet. Not at June's. I don't want an audience. She has a job. So do I." "Then go do it." "Mara, I need to sleep." "You've been sleeping for 4 hours. I was traveling for 20. Right. Sorry." We had become painfully polite around measurable facts. I ended the call before either of us found another number to argue about. Evelyn called 9 minutes later. I considered letting it ring, but she left a voicemail and immediately called again. Evelyn believed repeated contact transformed interruption into urgency. "Hi, Evelyn." "Oh, thank goodness. Peter said you left." "He's correct. Are you at June's?" "Yes." "That poor woman just got you back and now she's involved in this. June isn't involved. You're living above her garage. I'm renting an apartment." "Mara, married women don't rent apartments after one argument. I don't think the apartment checks." She sighed. "I knew last night was too much." "So did I. We were excited. We may have overdone it. This isn't about dinner. Peter said you were upset about the office. He said my deployment was my choice." She went quiet. "He was emotional," she said finally. "So was I. You know he supported you. I know he used to. He did more than most men would. He attended those guard family meetings. He sent packages. He kept your truck running. Every fact was true. Together, they were being arranged into a verdict. Evelyn, why did you think I deployed?" "What do you mean? Did Peter tell you my unit was activated?" "Well, yes, but you had choices before that. You chose to stay in. You chose to re-enlist all those years." There it was again, the sentence with deeper roots. "Did he tell you I left because I wanted a promotion?" "He said you were excited about the opportunity. I had said I would make the best of it. Someone had translated discipline into enthusiasm and enthusiasm into guilt." "I'm going back to sleep," I said. "Please don't let pride destroy your marriage." "I won't." She took the answer as reassurance. I did not correct her. At 3:30, tires crunched over June's gravel. I looked through the blinds and saw Peter's truck. He climbed the stairs carrying the supermarket lilies in one hand and a new brass key in the other. I opened the door but stayed in the frame. "You said tomorrow." "I know." He held out the key. "I thought you should have this now." I took it. It was warm from his palm. "The flowers looked stupid without you," he said. "They looked stupid with me too." His mouth moved, almost a smile. I accepted the lilies because rejecting them would have been theater. Peter stepped forward as if that meant he could enter. I didn't move. His eyes dropped to the threshold between us. "I made you a key," he said. "I see that. I'm trying. I see that too." He waited. The key was real. It would open the red door, restore my legal access, and solve the smallest problem we had. I closed my fingers around it. Then I closed June's door between us. Peter knocked once. "Mara." I leaned my forehead against the door. "I'm not going to stand out here and make a scene," he said. "Good. I came because you said the key mattered." "It does." "Then why are you shutting me out?" Because he had shown up without permission. Because the flowers were supposed to turn intrusion into romance. Because some part of me wanted to open the door, take his face in my hands, and negotiate against myself until everything hurt less. "I asked for one day," I said. He descended the stairs without answering. Through the blinds, I watched him cross the gravel with his shoulders tight. He got into his truck, backed up too quickly, braked to avoid June's mailbox, then drove away at a speed meant to communicate restraint. I put the lilies in a plastic pitcher. June did not own a vase. The pitcher said "World's Best Boss," though June had never supervised anyone when she bought it. She said it was aspirational. When she came home, she found me sitting on the couch with a beer I had opened and forgotten to drink. She looked at the lilies. Did the apartment come with a husband? He brought a key. That one of those romantic euphemisms? I held it up. June dropped her work bag onto the emotionally stable chair. He drove over here to give you a house key? Yes. Did he think mail had been abolished? He wanted to see me, and I wanted to see him. She opened the refrigerator. That sounds inconvenient. It is. She pulled out a beer, used the counter edge to open it, and ignored my disapproval. You own an opener, I said. I own many things. You're damaging the counter. It builds character. In the counter? In you. She sat beside me, leaving enough room that our shoulders didn't touch. Do you want advice? She asked. No. Excellent. I don't have any. We drank in silence. The apartment darkened around us until June finally switched on a lamp. I told her about the dinner in pieces, my chair, the water heater, the lemon cake, Evelyn's belief that staying in the guard made every consequence mine alone. June listened without interrupting, which was unnerving. She usually treated silence like a small electrical fire. I did choose to re-enlist, I said. So Peter isn't wrong about that. He also chose to marry you after you enlisted. Guard enlisted. Peter married. Did you give him a brochure? He knew. Everyone knows until knowing ruins a weekend. I turned the key over in my hand. Fresh brass, sharp along the teeth. He had a bad year, too, I said. I know that, probably. He dealt with the house, his work got busy, Lacey fell apart, I missed calls. You were deployed. I still miss them. June picked at the beer label with her thumbnail. You're allowed to look at what you did wrong without taking responsibility for everything he did afterward. I told you I didn't want advice. That wasn't advice, it was an irritating observation. Those are worse. I know. Peter texted before June left. Can we meet tomorrow? Neutral ground. You pick. I chose a diner halfway between the house and June's. Peter hated the coffee, and neither of us had memories there. He arrived before me and had already ordered a cup anyway. A small white box sat beside his elbow. He stood when I approached, then seemed unsure what kind of greeting our marriage currently permitted. We settled on no greeting at all. What's in the box? I asked. New lock cylinder. I brought it to show you. Why? So you'd know I didn't change the locks to keep you out. I didn't think you did. You said I made sure you couldn't get back in. I said it because you asked whether I had a key while I was leaving. I was trying to point out that leaving without one was impractical. I had just returned from a deployment, Peter. I could manage a night above June's garage. He turned his coffee cup between his palms. A waitress came over. Her name tag said Sandy, and she called us both honey with complete neutrality. I ordered coffee and toast. Peter ordered eggs after claiming he wasn't hungry. When she left, he pushed the white box aside. I told Lacey she needs to be out by the end of the month. That's 3 weeks. She can't find a place in 1 day. I didn't ask her to. You asked for a date, that's the date. All right. He looked surprised that I accepted it. I'll clear the office myself, he said. Today, if you want. I'm not coming home today. Mari, I said I'd return when we could talk about my service without making it something I did against you. I was angry. You didn't invent that sentence after 2 glasses of wine. Your mother already believed it. His jaw tightened. Leave my mother out of this. She was at the dinner. She loves you. She thinks I chose a promotion over my marriage. I never said that. What did you say? I said you were making the best of an opportunity. She heard that I was excited to go. You were. No. I was determined not to make everyone around me carry my fear. Peter leaned back. The waitress brought my coffee. She topped off his and asked whether we needed more cream. Peter said no. I said yes. We waited until she was gone. You never told me you were afraid, he said. I tried. When? The night before we left. You said you were worried about the movement schedule. I said I didn't know whether I could keep everyone safe. You were talking about your job. I was talking about myself. He stared at the table. Why didn't you just say that? I don't know. Why didn't you say you were angry? I did. You said you missed me. I said a lot more than that. You said the house felt empty. You said you hated eating alone. Then you moved your sister in and stopped eating alone. Lacey was already there. For 6 weeks, she was barely functioning, and you liked being needed. His eyes lifted to mine. I had gone too close to something. You think I enjoyed this? He asked. I think you found a way to be the person holding everything together, because somebody had to. I was still part of the marriage. From 8 time zones away, the eggs arrived. Sandy set down the plates, registered the air between us, and retreated without calling either of us honey. Peter picked up his fork but didn't eat. Do you remember our anniversary? He asked. Yes. I waited 3 hours for your call. We had a vehicle breakdown during a supply movement. I know. You told me the next morning I couldn't use my phone. I know that too. Then what are you asking? I sat at the kitchen table with dinner getting cold. I'd bought those ridiculous olives you like. Lacey lit the candles because she felt sorry for me. The image hurt in several directions at once. I'm sorry, I said. You called the next morning and explained the vehicle problem. You asked whether I'd turned in the home insurance renewal. Then you had to go. I had 7 minutes. I know. There was always a reason. What did you want me to do? I wanted you to sound like you missed me more than you missed solving the insurance problem. I did miss you. You sounded annoyed that I was upset. I was annoyed. Not at you. How was I supposed to know the difference? I looked down at my untouched toast. There were things I had compressed into manageable shapes while I was gone. Conversations became lists because lists fit into 7-minute calls. Fear became scheduling. Loneliness became asking whether the gutters had been cleaned. Peter had tried to tell me he was drowning, and I had sent him instructions for better drainage. That did not make the locks, the closet, or the family story acceptable. It made the table less comfortable. I should have listened differently, I said. Peter's face softened. Thank you. I need you to do the same. I am. No. You're waiting for the part where I admit this was all my fault. I don't think it was all your fault. What part was yours? He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. I let the silence remain. Finally, he said, I should have handled last night better. Not just last night. I should have told you about the lock, not just the lock. I'm trying to give you what you asked for. Lacey has a date. You have a key. I apologized for what I said. You apologized for how it sounded. Now we're grading apologies. We're determining whether you believe it. He pushed his plate away. What do you want from me? Marriage counseling. Peter gave one humorless laugh. So a stranger can tell me I'm the villain? So we stop having the same conversation in different rooms. I don't need a referee. Neither do I. Then why? Because I'm not moving back until we can discuss what happened without you turning my deployment into desertion. He looked out the window toward the parking lot. A man in a baseball cap was struggling to fit a takeout container into a motorcycle saddlebag. Peter watched as if the outcome mattered. How many sessions? He asked. That isn't how it works. It has to end sometime. Everything does. He flinched. That sounded like a threat, he said. It wasn't. Then what was it? A fact. I paid for my coffee and toast. Peter objected automatically, and I paid anyway. At the door, he touched my elbow. Can I hug you? The question nearly undid me. I nodded. He put his arms around me in the narrow space between the cash register and a display of breath mints. I pressed my face against his jacket. He held me firmly, not carefully this time. For a few seconds, my body stopped keeping score. I miss you, he whispered. I miss you too. Come home. I stepped back. Counseling? I said. His expression closed again, but he nodded. Monday morning, my access badge opened the transit depot door on the first try. I stood there with my hand on the metal handle until Sam Delgado, my assistant manager, approached from inside carrying 2 coffees. You planning to enter? He asked. Or are we observing the door? Checking the badge. I reactivated it Friday. He handed me one of the coffees. My office was exactly as I had left it except for a stack of completed maintenance reports and a sticky note on my monitor that read, Welcome back. Nothing caught fire. Nothing? I asked. Nothing we're admitting. I set down my folders. Sam paused at the door. You want the full briefing now or after you remember where the bathroom is? Now. Good. I hated being in charge. For the next 3 hours, work required facts instead of interpretations. Tires had mileage, parts had numbers. Repairs were either complete or they weren't. No one asked whether the deployment had been my choice. At lunch, Peter sent me confirmation for a counseling appointment Thursday afternoon. Below it, he added another message. Do you remember the login for the homeowner's insurance? I need to update the lock information. I stared at the screen. Then I laughed so suddenly, Sam looked over from the next desk. Everything okay? He asked. No, I said, and opened my sandwich. But at least the coffee's terrible. I answered Peter's message with the insurance agent's phone number. He replied almost immediately. I know I can call. The login would be faster. Then call. 3 dots appeared, vanished, and appeared again. You used to handle this stuff. I locked my phone and returned to the maintenance reports. Sam had kept excellent records, which annoyed me for reasons I chose not to inspect. He had replaced my color-coded tabs with plain white dividers and written dates in pencil. Nothing was wrong. It was simply not mine. At 1:30, he took me through the garage. The county buses sat in 2 long rows beneath fluorescent lights, several raised over service pits. Air tools whined. A mechanic named Curtis leaned out from under a wheel assembly and saluted me with a grease gun. Welcome back, boss. Don't point that at me. Still bossy. Good sign. Sam handed me a tablet loaded with current work orders. Unit 27 needs a road test. 41 is waiting on a compressor. 53 is cursed. Technical diagnosis? We've tried everything else. A pneumatic line disconnected somewhere behind me with a sharp metallic crack. My body dropped before my mind identified the sound. One knee hit concrete. My left hand grabbed the edge of a workbench. The tablet struck the floor and skidded beneath a tool cart. The garage went still in expanding circles. Curtis looked at the loose hose in his hand. Damn. Mara, I'm sorry. I stood too quickly. It's fine. Sam retrieved the tablet. The corner of its protective case was scuffed. No damage, he said. I said I'm fine. He looked at me once, then turned toward the mechanics. Why is everyone standing around? 53 isn't going to uncurse itself. Noise resumed. Curtis reconnected the hose without looking at me. I checked Unit 27's work order twice and absorbed none of it. Sam waited until we were outside the garage before he spoke. You want to finish the briefing tomorrow? No. That wasn't a test. I know. You've been back 3 days. I know that too. He folded his arms. I'm not trying to take your job. I didn't say you were. You're reading everything I say like a threat assessment. The words irritated me because they were accurate. I'm ready to work, I said. I believe you. Being ready and being adjusted aren't the same thing. I'm not asking for light duty. Good, because I have no light duty. I have cursed buses. I laughed despite the heat behind my face. Sam handed me the tablet. Start with the compressor. You can defeat supernatural forces next week. That evening, a bruise bloomed across my knee in the exact shape of the workbench edge. June found me icing it with a bag of frozen peas. Bus attack, she asked. Workbench. Did you win? Split decision. She opened the refrigerator and frowned. Those were my good peas. They're peas. Organic. You shop at a gas station. I contain multitudes. She microwaved soup while I checked my phone. Peter had sent a photograph of my office. The folding tables were gone. My desk had been moved back from the garage, its surface sanded and oiled. My service photographs leaned against the wall, waiting to be rehung. Lacey had sent a photograph too. 3 apartment listings with circles drawn around the move-in dates. Looking tomorrow. I'm not trying to cause more trouble. The wording made it hard to tell whether she was apologizing or documenting compliance. Peter called while June ate soup out of the pot. Did you see the office? He asked. I saw it. I had to refinish the top. There was a dent. From your tools? Probably. Thank you for fixing it. He waited for more. "It looks good," I added. "I found your desk lamp in the attic." "Why was it in the attic?" "Lacey put it there." "Of course." "She's moving, Mara. You don't have to keep saying her name like that." "Like what? Like it explains everything." I shifted the peas on my knee. "Did you reset the insurance login?" "Yes." "Good. I had to call. I gave you the number." "I know." In the pause, I heard him moving around the office. A picture frame scraped lightly against wood. "Where do these photos go?" he asked. "You took them down." "I didn't. Lacey did. You lived with the empty wall for 11 months. He stopped moving. "I thought she put them somewhere else," he said. "They were on the shelf beside the television. I didn't notice." "I know." The sentence came out softer than I meant it to. He heard that too. "I'm sorry," he said. I waited. For not noticing, he added. That apology was small enough to fit the mistake. I accepted it. "Thank you." "Thursday," he said. "I'll meet you there." The counselor's office occupied the second floor of a converted brick house between a dentist and a tax preparer. The waiting room had 2 upholstered chairs, a ficus tree, and a machine that produced water in cups too small for thirst. I arrived 9 minutes early. Peter arrived 7 minutes late. "Parking," he said. There were 12 empty spaces outside. He sat beside me, close enough that his sleeve touched mine. He wore the navy button-down I liked and had trimmed the extended shaving delay June objected to. I wondered how much preparation he had put into appearing unprepared. The counselor opened her door. Peter and Mara? Her name was Helen Carver. She was in her late 50s with short dark hair going silver at the sides and glasses attached to a cord. Her office held a couch, 1 armchair, and a box of tissues positioned with the confidence of a threat. Peter and I chose opposite ends of the couch. Helen asked why we were there. Peter looked at me. "You made the appointment," I said. He clasped his hands. "Mara recently returned from an overseas deployment. Reintegration has been difficult." I looked at him. Helen looked at me. "Is that how you would describe it?" "No." Peter shifted. "It has been difficult. I returned to a house where my key didn't work. His sister had moved into my office and half my closet, and his family believed I had volunteered to leave him for nearly a year." "I never said," she volunteered. "You said the deployment was my choice." Helen lifted a hand slightly, not to stop us, but to slow the speed. "When did you say that?" "The night she got home," Peter said. "After a dinner I asked him not to hold." "You didn't ask me not to hold it. You complained after everyone arrived. I said I wanted quiet when I got upstairs. You didn't say cancel." Helen turned to me. "Did you feel able to ask directly?" The question irritated me. Apparently not. "What would you have wanted to say? I have been traveling for 20 hours. I don't want your family here." Peter let out a breath. That would have been useful. I shouldn't have needed a formal operations order to be tired. "No, but I can't respond to things you refuse to say." Helen made a note. Peter leaned forward. "This is what it was like while she was gone. Everything was encoded. She'd ask about the gutters when she meant she missed home. She'd send me a list when I needed her to listen." I looked at his clasped hands. "That's true," I said. He glanced at me. "I treated problems like they could all be solved," I continued. "It was how I got through the day. I didn't always hear what he was trying to tell me." Peter's shoulders lowered. Helen asked, "And what was Mara trying to tell you?" He looked confused. "When?" "During the deployment. She said she was busy." "What else?" "She said she was tired." "What did you understand that to mean?" "That she was tired." Helen waited. Peter's mouth tightened. "I'm not good at riddles." "Neither am I," said. "But I'm not the only one who communicated badly. I didn't say you were. You have made me the entire explanation for what happened. That isn't fair." Helen's pen stopped. I nearly laughed. Peter noticed. "What?" "Nothing." "No. You did that thing with your face." "What thing?" "The thing where you decide I've proven your point. You just told me my observation wasn't fair, because it wasn't." Helen asked him about the changed locks. There was a burglary, he said. Not at our house, I said. 2 streets over. Lacey was nervous. Did you send Mara a key? I forgot. Did you tell her the lock had changed? I thought I had. You didn't. He glanced at me. I know that now. Helen asked about my office. My sister's business needed space, Peter said. Mara wasn't physically using the room. Did you ask her? We weren't making irreversible changes. You moved my desk into the garage and moved it back. After I left, I can't change the timing. No, you can tell the truth about why. He stared at me. Helen said, What truth do you believe he's avoiding? That he liked building a life where I was the problem. Lacey needed him. His family admired him. Every difficult thing became proof that I had chosen something over him. Peter stood. Not dramatically. He walked to the water machine, filled 1 tiny cup, drank it, and filled another. You think I enjoyed being alone? He asked. No, I think you found a way not to be alone. My sister was falling apart. And I wasn't? You never acted like it. The words crossed the room and struck cleanly. I looked down at my hands. Peter sat again. His anger had burned off, leaving panic behind. I didn't mean that, he said. Yes, you did. I meant you seemed okay. I needed you to believe I was okay, so I did. You also needed everyone else to believe I was selfish. No. Then why does your mother think I chose a promotion? I don't know what my mother thinks. She told me. That's between you and her. You gave her the story. I told her I was lonely. Did you tell her I was ordered to go? He looked toward Helen as if she might narrow the question. She did not. I told her you re-enlisted knowing this could happen, he said. There it was, without wine, without midnight, without an audience. Helen asked, Why was that important for your mother to know? Peter stared at the carpet. Because she kept telling me to be proud, he said, and I was tired of being proud. The honesty hurt more than the excuse. Our hour ended before either of us knew what to do with it. In the parking lot, Peter reached for my hand. I let him hold it. I'm glad you came, he said. So am I. Did it help? It clarified things. That sounds ominous. You spent most of the hour explaining why every choice made in that house belonged to somebody else. He released my hand. I agreed to counseling. Yes. I moved your office back. Yes. I told Lacey to leave. After I did, his face hardened. How long are you going to punish me? I opened my truck door. When you can tell the difference between punishment and consequence, I said, we'll have something to discuss. Then I got in, before he could ask me to explain that too. Peter called before I reached the end of the block. I let it ring. He called again at the first traffic light, then sent a message. That was a cruel thing to say. I read it twice, wondering which sentence he meant. I put the phone face down in the cup holder and drove to June's. The next morning, another message waited. I scheduled next Thursday. Same time. No accusation, no request for praise. I answered with a thumbs up, then hated myself for communicating like Sam confirming a parts delivery. Peter responded anyway. Thank you. He began sending one message each day. Tuesday was a photograph of my office with the service pictures back on the wall. Wednesday was a question about whether I wanted him to keep the lilies alive. Thursday was a complaint that the lilies had rejected his leadership. Friday, he sent a photograph of one collapsed flower beside the coffee machine. Final survivor. Morale is low. I laughed at my desk. Sam looked over. Good news? Dying plant. Best kind. Low commitment. The week settled into a shape I could manage. I arrived at the depot before 7, reviewed work orders, and spent enough time in the garage that the noises began becoming tools again instead of threats. Curtis announced every air hose disconnection like he was conducting a demolition. Loud noise in 3, he called Friday afternoon. If you count down every sound, I'm transferring you to purchasing. Threat received, boss. No one treated me like glass. No one pretended they hadn't seen me drop. It was the kindest thing they could have done. At night, I ate at June's house or carried food upstairs. I slept in pieces, 3 hours, then 1. Sometimes I woke convinced I had missed movement time. Sometimes I woke reaching for Peter and lay still until the impulse passed. He asked me to come to Sunday dinner. Just Mom and Lacey. No crowd. I wrote no, erased it, wrote not yet, and sent that. He replied, understood. The word was so unlike him that I suspected Helen had assigned vocabulary. Saturday morning, I drove to the house for more clothes. The new key entered the lock cleanly. I turned it, opened the red door, and stood on the threshold waiting for relief. The round mirror still hung where our wedding photograph belonged. Cardboard boxes crowded the dining room. Some were sealed with packing tape, others overflowed with shredded paper and wooden signs. A framed plank reading, "This is our happy place," rested upside down against a chair. Lacey came out of the kitchen holding a tape gun. You could have called. I have a key now, I know. I just would have picked up. I'm not here to make you clean. I'm packing. I can see that. She wore leggings, one of Peter's old college sweatshirts, and no makeup. Her hair was pulled into a knot that had given up. Without the careful clothes and bright voice, she looked smaller. Peter's at an install, she said. He'll be back around 2. I came for work clothes and my winter coat. Your winter coat's in the hall closet. I opened it. The closet contained packing supplies. Lacey winced. It might be in the cedar chest. Where's the cedar chest? Guest room. Where is the guest room? She held up the tape gun. Fair. We found the coat folded beneath 2 of her sweaters and a bag of fabric scraps. I carried it upstairs. The primary closet had been divided again. My clothes hung along one side, spaced and organized by color. Lacey's remaining things were compressed into garment bags at the far end. I moved everything Thursday, she said behind me. Thank you. I washed the sweater bin, too. The garage made it smell weird. I pulled out several shirts. Like cedar or gasoline? Like Peter. That could be either. Her laugh escaped before she decided not to give it to me. I laid clothes on the bed. She stayed in the doorway watching. I found an apartment, she said. That was fast. You sound disappointed. I'm not. It's smaller than the shop space here. I'll need a storage unit. I'm sure you'll work it out. There's no elevator. I stopped folding. What do you want me to say, Lacey? I don't know. Do you want me to feel guilty? No. You keep listing inconveniences. I'm making conversation. Try the weather. She stepped into the room. You don't have to talk to me like I'm one of your soldiers. I don't talk to soldiers like this. Right. They know better than to disagree with you. I put another shirt into my bag. You lived in my house for almost a year, with your permission, for 6 weeks. Then you left. I turned. Lacey's chin lifted, but her hands tightened around the tape gun. I was ordered away, I said. You were invited in. Only one of us got to choose how long she stayed. That's not what Peter said. What did Peter say? She looked toward the hall. Lacey, he said your unit was activated because you stayed in, that you could have gotten out before if you'd wanted a different life badly enough. A different life. With him. I sat on the edge of the bed. The room seemed to tilt slightly, though nothing moved. What exactly did he think I could do? I don't know. Leave the guard. Transfer. Claim some kind of hardship. Peter's cabinet orders were busy. His sister needed an office. Which hardship should I have claimed? I didn't ask. No, you repeated it. At dinner, yes. I shouldn't have. How many other times? Her gaze dropped. How many? I don't know. We talked. Mom talked. Danny. People asked why you had to go, and Peter would say no one put a gun to your head when you re-enlisted. I stared at my hands. My wedding ring caught the light from the window. Peter had attended the ceremony the last time I re-enlisted. He stood beside me afterward, one arm around my waist, and told everyone he was proud. We went for hamburgers because I had missed lunch. On the drive home, he had asked how many years before I qualified for retirement. At some point, that memory had been revised into evidence against me. Why didn't you tell me he felt that way? He didn't want me to. You obeyed him? He was my brother, and he was miserable. So was I. You hid it better. The answer was close enough to Peter's that I almost dismissed it, but Lacey's face held no triumph. She sat on the chair where I had left my jeans the first night. He missed you, she said, not in a noble military spouse way, in an ugly way. He stopped sleeping. He snapped at customers. He'd put his phone on the table during dinner and stare at it. On your anniversary, he bought those olives you like and spent 2 hours pretending he wasn't waiting for you to call. I know about the olives. He threw the jar into the sink. What? It broke. Glass everywhere. Then he sat on the floor and cried. I pictured Peter at the kitchen sink, red peppers and broken glass around his feet. He had told the diner version with candles and cold food, enough pain to make his point and enough dignity to keep control. Was he hurt? I asked. Small cut. Nothing serious. Why didn't he tell me? Why didn't you tell him you were scared? I looked at her. She rubbed both palms over her knees. He told me about counseling. That's private. I know. He came home and told me anyway. Of course he did. He said Helen made him feel like every answer was wrong. Helen barely spoke. That's probably why. I zipped the bag. Lacey watched me. I liked being useful here. It was not an apology, but it was the first true thing she had offered without being cornered. I know, I said. After Scott left, everyone looked at me like I was a chair missing a leg. Peter didn't. He needed help. I knew what groceries to buy, what Mom meant when she said she was fine, how to make him eat something that wasn't over the sink. You built a place for yourself. Yes, in mine. Her mouth twisted. Yes. The garage door opened below us. Peter entered through the kitchen calling Lacey's name. He found us upstairs, her seated in our bedroom and me standing over an open bag. His face tightened. You should have told me you were coming. Why? So I could be here. I didn't come to see you. That's obvious. Lacey stood. She needed clothes. I can see that. His eyes moved to the tape gun, then the garment bags. What happened? He asked. Nothing, Lacey said. Mara? Your sister and I had a conversation. About what? Whether I chose to leave. He went still. Lacey pushed past him into the hall. Peter followed. What did you tell her? She turned at the top of the stairs. The truth, as far as I knew it. That wasn't your conversation to have. You made it my conversation every night for 11 months. His face flushed. You were living here because I was helping you, and I helped you. I never asked you to take sides. You didn't have to. You only told one side. Peter glanced at me as if I had arranged her words. Stop, he said. Both of you. This is exactly what I didn't want. What? I asked. People comparing notes? You coming in here and turning my sister against me? Lacey laughed once. I can manage that myself. Stay out of this, he told her. She raised the tape gun. I am literally packing to stay out of this. Peter pressed his fingers to his forehead. Lacey, you don't have to move today. I'm not moving today. You're upset. I'm packing tape, Peter. It's not a psychiatric event. He looked exhausted. For one dangerous second, I wanted to step between them and restore order. Explain what each meant. Translate everyone's anger into assignments. Instead, I lifted my bag. Peter blocked the bedroom doorway without seeming to realize it. When are you coming home? He asked. I don't know. Your office is back. Lacey's moving. That was never the whole problem. What more do you need me to do? Stop treating people like pieces you can move around until the house looks fixed. He stepped aside. I walked past him, down the stairs, and out the red door. Before I reached my truck, Lacey called my name from the porch. She held the wedding photograph that had been displaced by the round mirror. I found this behind the hall cabinet, she said. I took it from her. Peter and I were laughing inside the frame, my hand on his chest, his face turned toward mine. I didn't put it there, Lacey said. Neither of us looked back at the house. I believe you, I said. For once I did. I put the wedding photograph on the kitchen counter in June's apartment. It stayed there for 2 days because every other location felt like a decision. Beside the bed was sentimental. Inside a drawer was hostile. Face down was dishonest. The counter allowed me to pass it while getting coffee and pretend I hadn't looked. June came upstairs Sunday morning carrying a toolbox. Your toilet sounds possessed. It runs for 6 seconds. It's building confidence. She set the toolbox down, noticed the photograph, and picked it up. You looked happy. We were. She studied Peter. He has less beard here. That remains not a beard. What happened to the frame? A scratch ran diagonally across one corner. I had noticed it only after leaving the house. It was behind the hall cabinet. Things don't generally frame themselves and crawl behind furniture. Lacey says she didn't put it there. You believe her? Yes. June set the photograph exactly where it had been. Interesting. What is? You said that like there's only one other suspect. The toilet groaned from the bathroom. June pointed toward it. That could have done it. Her wrench had been under the tank lid for less than a minute when someone knocked. June looked at me from the bathroom doorway. Expecting the keymaster? No. If it's him, do I provisionally dislike him from here or downstairs? Fix the toilet. I can multitask. Evelyn stood on the landing with a covered casserole in her hands. She wore tan slacks, low heels, and lipstick, too bright for 10 in the morning. I brought breakfast, she said. That's a casserole. It has eggs. Did Peter send you? No, he doesn't know I'm here. That was worse in several ways. June came up behind me holding a wrench. Evelyn looked from her to the tool. I'm fixing a toilet, June said. I didn't ask. People usually do. I let Evelyn in. She placed the casserole on the emotionally stable chair, then reconsidered and moved it to the counter. Her gaze landed on the wedding photograph. Where did you find that? Behind the hall cabinet. Oh, you knew it was there? No, I knew it was gone. Those are different things. I realized that. June carried her toolbox to the door. The toilet no longer runs. If it starts again, threaten its family. Thank you. She looked at Evelyn. Egg casserole's an aggressive morning food. Then she left. Evelyn stood in the middle of the apartment, taking in the bed behind the half wall, the 2 chairs, the plastic pitcher of dying lilies. Her expression made the room look temporary. It's very clean, she said. I just moved in. You've always been orderly. She reached toward the lilies, pinched off a brown leaf, and placed it in her palm. I spoke to Lacey, she said. I assumed. She was upset. She's moving out of a house that isn't hers. You don't have to be unkind. I'm not being unkind. Lacey believes you blame her. Lacey took over my office, half my closet, my chair at the table, and your family's version of my marriage. Blame isn't a limited resource, Evelyn. Her mouth pressed into a thin line. She told me what Peter said, Evelyn continued, about you being ordered to deploy. You knew I was ordered. I knew your unit was activated. What did you think activated meant? I don't understand all the terminology. It means I received orders. You still chose to remain eligible for them. I stared at her. Evelyn closed her eyes. That sounded terrible. It sounded familiar. She sat on the right chair, the one with no emotional responsibilities. Peter called me after you left for Kuwait. Not immediately, a few weeks later. He said the house felt wrong without you. I waited. He said he was proud, but he didn't sound proud. He sounded angry. I told him military marriages required sacrifice. He said everyone kept talking about his sacrifice as if it were honorable, when the truth was that he hadn't wanted you to go. Did he tell me that? I assumed he had. He told me he was proud. Maybe he was both. He was allowed to be both. Evelyn smoothed her slacks over one knee. Peter has never been good at wanting contradictory things. Even as an adult, he needs one feeling to win before he can admit it exists. And you helped him pick anger. That isn't fair. The phrase had become a family prayer. I said nothing. She looked toward the window. I told Lacey to stay as long as Peter needed her. You did what? After the first 6 weeks? She said she felt guilty. I told her she was helping him. Did anyone consider asking me? You had enough to deal with. No, you had a version of me that was convenient, the strong one, the busy one, the one who didn't need a key or an office or a husband who told the truth. That is not what we thought. You had a dinner to congratulate Peter for surviving. What did you think I had been doing?" Evelyn looked down at the brown leaf in her palm. "I worried about you," she said. "How?" "I watched the news. I prayed. Every time Peter said you had called, I asked if you sounded all right. You never asked me. You were far away. My phone worked. I didn't know what to say, so you said nothing to me and everything about me." Her chin trembled. Evelyn hated crying in front of people. She considered it a kind of public undressing. "I did love having family dinners again," she said. "Lacey cooked. Peter seemed less lonely. We had somewhere to go on Sundays." There it is. What? The part where my absence benefited everyone. She looked up sharply. "That's not what I meant. It doesn't have to be malicious to be true." She folded the dead leaf into smaller and smaller pieces. "When Peter said you had made a choice, it made his anger easier to understand," she admitted. "It made all of us feel less helpless and less guilty. Yes." The word came out almost inaudibly. I opened the refrigerator, took out a bottle of water, and drank half of it. Evelyn watched me as if waiting for an instruction. "You all found it easier to be angry at the person who wasn't in the room," I said. "I'm sorry." I nodded. "You aren't going to say it's all right?" "No." Her surprise was small, but real. "I don't know what you want from us, Mara. I want you to stop making me responsible for relieving your discomfort. I came here to apologize, and you did. That's all?" "That's not nothing." She stood. The egg casserole remained on the counter between us. At the door, she paused beside the wedding photograph. "Peter moved it," she said. "You know that?" I asked where it was during one of the dinners. "He said he'd put it away because looking at it made him angry. Lacey said she didn't do it. She didn't." Evelyn touched the frame but did not pick it up. "He missed you terribly," she said. "I know. He still does. I know that too." For once, she left without asking me to do anything with the information. I took the casserole downstairs to June. She removed the foil, stared at its pale surface, and said, "This looks like drywall compound. It probably tastes like rosemary. Why?" "Evelyn thinks rosemary is a personality. We ate it anyway. It was mostly cheese and salt, which rescued a number of sins." Peter arrived early to the next counseling appointment. He had already taken a seat in the waiting room. When I entered, he stood and held out a small paper cup of water. "I didn't know if you wanted coffee," he said. "This is water. I knew you wanted water." I accepted it. Helen called us in. Peter chose the same end of the couch. I sat closer to the middle this time, which felt like movement until I realized I was measuring upholstery. Helen asked what had happened since our last session. "My sister is moving out Saturday," Peter said. "How do you feel about that?" He shrugged. "It needs to happen." That wasn't my question. He looked at his hands. "I feel guilty." "Toward whom?" "Everyone. Specificity might help." He glanced at me. "I feel guilty that I let Lacey build her business in a space that wasn't mine to give her. It was partly yours," I said. "Not to give her. The correction mattered. I feel guilty that she now thinks I used her." "Did you?" Helen asked. Peter rubbed his thumb along his wedding ring. "Not intentionally." Helen waited. "Yes," he said finally. "I needed somebody in the house. She needed somebody to need her. We didn't ask too many questions because the arrangement worked." "For whom?" I asked. "For us." The answer was honest enough to sting. Helen turned to me. "What do you need from Peter now? I need him to tell his family the truth." His head lifted. "My mother talked to you." "She did. I told her not to. You told her not to apologize. I told her to leave you alone. She helped create the story. She needed to hear what it did." Peter looked toward Helen. "This is what I mean. Everything becomes a tribunal." "I don't want a tribunal," I said. "I don't want a dinner where everyone takes turns confessing. I want you to correct the story in the same ordinary conversations where you built it. What exactly am I supposed to say? That my unit was activated, that I did not volunteer to leave you, that you told people re-enlisting meant I had chosen the deployment because you were angry. That makes me sound vindictive. Were you? His eyes moved away. Helen asked, "What worries you about being seen that way?" "I'm not that person. No one is only the worst thing they did," she said. Peter looked at me. "Do you think I'm that person? I think you did that thing." He sat back. After a moment, he said, "I moved the wedding picture." "I know." His face tightened. "Mom told you." "Yes." "I didn't put it behind the cabinet. I put it in the hall drawer." "How did it get behind the cabinet?" "The drawer sticks. It's open at the back. Things fall through." The explanation was so ordinary that it hurt worse than a dramatic act would have. Our marriage had not been symbolically thrown behind furniture. Peter had hidden the picture, forgotten it, and gravity had finished the job. "Why did you move it?" Helen asked. Peter's eyes stayed on me. "Because she looked happy," he said, and I couldn't decide whether that meant I had lost something or imagined it. I swallowed. "You didn't imagine it?" I said. "Then why did it feel like you could live without me? I was trying to survive without you." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "I don't know the difference. That's the problem. We sat with that." Near the end of the session, Peter said he would speak to Danny, Melissa, Rob, and his mother. No gathering, no performance, just corrections. When we reached the parking lot, rain had started. Peter walked me to my truck without asking. "Lacey will be gone Saturday," he said. "Would you come by Sunday? Not move back, just come over." "For what?" "Dinner." No one else. I looked at him beneath the parking lot light. Rain dotted his hair and darkened the shoulders of his jacket. "Maybe," I said. He nodded as if maybe were a gift. Then he kissed me. It wasn't careful or planned. His hand touched my face and my body answered before my anger could call a meeting. For one breath, 2, 3, I was home in the oldest sense of the word. I pulled back. Peter kept his forehead against mine. "Sunday," he whispered. "Maybe." His hand fell. I drove to June's with my mouth still remembering him and the new key heavy in my pocket, unsure which one was more dangerous. June was on her porch when I returned, replacing the bulb above the door. She looked at my face, climbed down from the step stool and said, "You kissed him. How do you know? You have the expression." "What expression?" "Like somebody returned your missing wallet with the cash gone." I walked past her. "That wasn't a criticism," she called. It sounded like one. It was a highly specific observation. Upstairs, I placed the new key beside the wedding photograph. Brass and glass, access and evidence. I left them both on the counter and went to bed. Lacey arrived Saturday afternoon carrying the wicker basket from beneath my bathroom sink. The handwritten label still said Mara's stuff. She knocked, then held it out when I opened the door. "This is yours." I recognized the legal designation. "I didn't write that. You're the only person in the house who labels things with a marker and a colon. There's no colon. It's implied." She looked tired. A red groove crossed one forearm where a box had pressed into it. "Are you moved?" I asked. "Technically." "What does that mean?" "My belongings are inside the new apartment. Whether they fit is a separate question." I stepped aside. She hesitated before entering. The basket held my moisturizer, extra razors, nail clippers, and the travel bottle of shampoo I had been looking for all week. A bundle of unopened mail lay underneath. "These were in the bathroom drawer," she said. "My bathroom drawer?" I cleared it. "You mean your bathroom drawer." She accepted the correction with a slight nod. I carried the basket to the kitchen counter. Lacey noticed the wedding photograph, then the key beside it. "Peter helped me move," she said. "That was good of him. He was angry the whole time. At you, at boxes, doorways, a lamp. You know Peter. I did. He experienced strong emotions through carpentry and inanimate objects. The apartment is fine. she continued. Small, but the windows are nice. There's a bakery downstairs, which is either a benefit or a coordinated attack. You'll like it. You don't know that. No. She touched the back of the right-hand chair. I came to say I'm sorry. I waited. For taking over your office, she said, and the closet, and the dinners, the chair, and the chair, the napkin drawer. That actually is better where I put it. I almost smiled. Lacey sat. I didn't think of it as taking your place. I know. I thought I was keeping things going until you came back. Then I came back, and I wanted everything to keep going. There was no defense in her voice, just embarrassment. Why? I asked. Because it was working for me. The answer sat cleanly between us. I filled 2 glasses with water. Lacey drank half of hers at once. I was angry at you, she said, for leaving, for being the kind of woman people assume will be fine. That isn't a real kind of woman. I know that now. No, you know it about me now. She looked at the photograph. For what it's worth, Peter missed you every day. He told me. I know. I also know that doesn't make what he did okay. That surprised me more than the apology. I sat across from her. Did he tell everyone the truth? He called Danny and Melissa last night. Rob too. And Evelyn? Mom got there first. What did she say? She told Danny she'd let Peter's anger turn into the family version of events. Melissa said she already suspected something was wrong because you looked like you wanted to crawl through a heating vent during dinner. That was accurate. Danny feels terrible. Danny often feels terrible. It's his main hobby. Lacey smiled, then looked down at her water. Peter told them you didn't volunteer, she said. He told them he'd used your re-enlistment to make it sound like you had. How did that go? Rob called him an ass. That sounds like Rob. Then he asked whether Peter needed help moving my couch. That also sounds like Rob. She stood to leave. At the door, she paused. I took down the green curtains. I know. I put them in the attic. I didn't throw them away. Thank you. I hated those curtains. I know that too. She looked back at me. I think that's why I took them down. The admission was small, petty, and more trustworthy than any grand apology. I'll remember that when you invite me over, I said. Her eyebrows lifted. Would you come? Maybe. She nodded once and left before either of us could ruin it. Peter sent me a message at 5 on Sunday. Dinner at 6. No lemon. I drove to the house with an overnight bag I had packed and unpacked twice. In the end, it contained 1 clean shirt, my toothbrush, and no promise. The red door opened with my new key. Inside, the round mirror was gone. Our wedding photograph hung above the entry table again. The green curtains had not returned, but the windows were bare, as if the house had decided not to lie about being in transition. Peter came from the kitchen wearing an apron that said, "Kiss the cabinet maker." Lacey had given it to him as a joke years ago. He had always refused to wear it. That bad? He asked. I haven't seen the food. You're staring at the apron. I'm adjusting. His eyes dropped to the bag in my hand. Hope moved across his face so quickly I wanted to hide the bag behind me. I brought a shirt, I said. Okay. It doesn't mean I'm staying. Okay. Neither okay sounded okay. The dining room table was set for 2. My chair had returned to the end nearest the kitchen. Peter had put himself beside me rather than across from me. No candles, no flowers. The final lily stood in the middle of the table in a jelly jar, its head bent almost to the wood. You saved it, I said. It has a strong will to die privately. The food was roast chicken, potatoes, and green beans. Peter had overcooked the chicken and undercooked the potatoes, which required a level of coordination I almost respected. I can make something else, he said after watching me saw through a potato. It's fine. You hate when people say that. The beans are good. They came from a can. Then the can should be proud. He laughed. The tension eased by 1 degree. For several minutes, we talked about ordinary things. His cabinet client had changed hardware after installation. Unit 53 was still cursed. Lacey's new apartment had windows that rattled when trucks passed. Then Peter put down his fork. I talked to everyone. I heard. Lacey. Yes. I wish she'd let me tell you. She wasn't reporting on you. I asked. What did she say? That you told the truth. He nodded. I did. How did it feel? Humiliating. I appreciated that he didn't pretend otherwise. Danny kept apologizing, he said. Melissa told him to stop making his apology another thing you'd have to manage. Rob called me an ass. I heard that part too. Mom cried. I'm sure. She feels like you'll never forgive her. That sounds uncomfortable. Mara, I am not responsible for making your mother feel forgiven on her schedule. I know. He rubbed one hand over his mouth. I know that now. Dinner ended with half the chicken untouched. We cleaned together. Peter washed. I dried. Our shoulders bumped at the sink. Each time it happened, neither of us moved away. He had put the napkins back in their original drawer. You didn't have to do that, I said. Yes, I did. Why? Because I hated hearing you open the wrong drawer. That's not an apology. That's self-defense. It can be two things. We went upstairs. My office smelled like furniture oil. The desk stood beneath the window. The lamp returned to its corner. My service photographs and certifications hung where they had before. Peter had patched the holes from Lacey's shelving, but the paint was slightly different. Small, pale squares visible when the light hit them. I can repaint, he said. Leave them. Why? Because the shelves were here. He studied the wall, then nodded. The bedroom closet held only our clothes. My side was spaced too neatly, every hanger facing the same direction. The blue shirt that belonged to Lacey was gone. Peter stood behind me. I changed the sheets, he said. I turned. He was close enough that I could see a fleck of dried paint beside his ear. I rubbed it away with my thumb. He closed his eyes. When he opened them, he said, "Stay." The word carried no argument. That made it harder. I kissed him first. His hands settled at my waist, then moved to my back, pulling me against him. The kiss deepened with a year of missed touch behind it. He tasted like wine and rosemary. I gripped his shirt. For a moment there was no office, no family dinner, no new key. There was only the familiar shape of him and the terrible relief of being wanted by the person who had hurt me. Peter moved toward the bed. I stopped. He stopped too, immediately. "I'm sorry," he said. "You didn't do anything." I thought, I know. He stepped back, breathing hard. "You brought a bag. I brought a shirt. You kissed me. I wanted to kiss you. What am I supposed to do with that?" The question echoed the parking lot. "Believe me, I do believe you. That's why I don't understand why you're leaving again. Because wanting you is not the same as trusting what happens if I stay." His face closed. "I told everyone the truth. I moved Lacey. I restored your office. I'm going to counseling. You keep listing completed tasks because you keep adding new ones. This isn't a checklist. Everything with you is a checklist. Then stop asking what else you have to do. What else am I supposed to ask?" I picked up my bag. Peter laughed once without humor. "There it is, what?" "The exit." "I told you I might not stay. You arrived prepared to leave. I arrived prepared not to be trapped by your expectations." "My expectations? You're my wife. I thought dinner and a kiss might mean you wanted to sleep beside me. I do. Then stay. I'm not ready. How long do I have to live on probation?" "Counseling is not probation. No, this is." He gestured between us. Every conversation, every drawer, every word. I'm waiting for the next thing I didn't understand was evidence. I looked at him. "What if you're only changing because you're afraid I'll leave?" "I am afraid you'll leave." That wasn't the question. It's the only answer I have. Downstairs, the refrigerator started its familiar hum. Peter's anger drained as quickly as it had risen. "I don't know how to prove I won't do it again if you won't come home," he said. "You prove it by how you treat me while I'm not doing what you want." He looked at the overnight bag. "This feels like abandonment." I know. You say that like it doesn't matter. It matters. It just doesn't get to make my decision for me. I kissed his cheek. He stood still, refusing the comfort or unable to accept it. At the front door, I took our wedding photograph off the wall. Peter watched from the stairs. "What are you doing?" "I'm taking this with me." "Why?" "Because we were both happy in it." He looked as if I had taken something from him. Maybe I had. I carried the photograph to my truck and set it carefully on the passenger seat, facing forward. This time, when I left the house, neither of us pretended I was only stepping out for the night. The photograph tipped over when I turned onto June's Road. At the apartment, I placed it beside the bed. That was sentimental. I let it be sentimental. I slept badly. Around 2, I woke from a dream in which I stood outside the house, trying every key I had ever owned. None fit, and people inside kept laughing at a joke I couldn't hear. At 6, I carried coffee down to June's porch. She sat on the steps in flannel pants and work boots, cleaning mud from the tread with a screwdriver. "You know they sell tools for that," I said. "This is a tool for screws." It didn't sign a contract. I sat beside her. She looked at my face. "Stayed over?" "No." "Kissed him again?" "Yes." "Then left?" "Yes." June scraped another strip of mud loose. "Want me to say you did the right thing?" "I don't know if I did." "Then I definitely can't." I drank the coffee. It was too hot and burned my tongue. I wanted to stay. I figured. I had a bag. "You planning to sneak out before dawn?" I wanted the option. "You like options." "I like exits." June stopped scraping. "Since when?" The question followed me to work. At the depot, Unit 53 finally started without producing smoke, grinding, or a warning light. Curtis held both arms in the air. "Curse no more. Drive it around the lot before you declare victory. You take the romance out of everything. That's why the county pays me." Sam appeared at my shoulder with a clipboard. "You have a call on line 2. "Who?" "Peter." "He has my cell. He said you weren't answering." I checked my pocket. 3 missed calls. "Did he say it was an emergency?" "He said homeowner emergency." I asked whether anything was on fire. He said no. I took the call in my office. "What happened?" "The disposal is leaking. Turn off the breaker under the sink." I did. "Put a bucket beneath it." I did that too. "Then call a plumber." "I know how to handle a leak, Mara." "Why did you call my workplace?" "Because you didn't answer your phone." "I was in the garage. I wanted to know whether we had a service agreement." "We don't." "Are you sure?" "Yes." A pause. "I thought you bought one when we replaced the dishwasher." "I didn't." "All right. Anything else?" The silence extended. "I didn't call because I'm helpless," he said. "I didn't say you were. You sounded like you were issuing instructions. You called me about a leaking appliance. I called my wife. That's what you said at the diner. Because it's true." I turned my chair toward the office window. Sam was outside speaking to Curtis, deliberately not looking in my direction. "What did you want your wife to say?" I asked. "I don't know, that it's frustrating, that everything in the house has started breaking. I'm sorry. That's frustrating." The words sounded prescribed. Peter heard it. "Forget it." "No. Don't do that. You told me what you needed. I'm trying to answer. I shouldn't have to give you a script. And I shouldn't have to guess whether a call about plumbing is actually a request for comfort. That's marriage. That was our problem." He breathed out. "The office feels empty," he said. "Mine? The whole house." There it was. I leaned back. "I'm sorry. This time I meant it." "I keep hearing things," he said. Lacey opening a cabinet. "You coming up the stairs? It's the refrigerator or the pipes. I know what that's like." "You do?" "Every night." Neither of us spoke. Then he said, "Can I see you tonight? We have counseling tomorrow." That wasn't my question. "I'm tired, Peter. You're always tired. I'm still adjusting." He seized on the word. "So this is reintegration. That doesn't excuse what happened. I didn't say it did. You did in the first session. I was wrong." The simple sentence disarmed me. "I can't tonight," I said more gently. "Okay." He handled the disposal himself. At 9, he sent a photograph of the corroded fitting on a paper towel. Found it. I sent back a thumbs up and immediately regretted it. His response arrived seconds later. Brutal. I laughed, then cried so quickly the laugh was still in my throat. The crying came without elegance. I sat on the edge of the bed with one boot off and the other still laced, pressing both hands against my face. I cried for the house, the anniversary olives, the photograph, the 11 months I had reduced myself to 7-minute calls. I cried because Peter had finally said he was wrong and it changed nothing quickly enough. June entered without knocking, carrying a wrench. "Your toilet is fine," I said. I heard something. "The walls are thin." She set the wrench on the counter and sat beside me. "I'm tired," I said. "No, you're sad. I can be both. You've called everything tired since you got back. Sad is tired, angry is tired, scared is tired. I am not scared. You packed an escape shirt for dinner." I lowered my hands. It wasn't an escape shirt. Then what was it? I don't know. June waited. "I'm scared if I go back. All of this becomes a bad month we never mention again. That seems reasonable. And I'm scared if I don't go back, I'm ending a 12-year marriage over one sentence." June looked toward the wedding photograph. "It wasn't one sentence." "I know, but it would be easier if it were." She put an arm around my shoulders. June's body stayed slightly stiff because of her back, but her grip was strong. "You love him," she said. "Yes, that's unfortunate." I laughed wetly. She nudged my knee with hers. "Now you're laughing. Don't call that tired either." At counseling, Peter looked worse than I did. A bruise-colored shadow lay beneath each eye. He had trimmed his almost beard again but missed a patch beneath his jaw. Helen asked how we had communicated since the last session. "I had a plumbing emergency," Peter said. "It was a loose fitting," I said. "It was emotionally an emergency." I looked at him. "June said that, didn't she? Not about the plumbing." The almost smile between us vanished when Helen asked whether I had stayed for dinner Sunday. "She left," Peter said. I told him I might. "She brought a bag. With one shirt. She kissed me. I wanted to." Helen said, "You both seem to be using the kiss as evidence for different arguments." Peter rubbed his palms over his knees. "I thought we were getting better." "We are communicating better," I said. "But you still left." "Yes." "What exactly has to happen for you to come home?" "I don't know." His face went blank. It was the first time I had said it without adding conditions. No counseling, no move-out date, no family correction. Those things had happened. The remaining obstacle lived somewhere less measurable. Helen asked, "What do you imagine would happen if you returned?" I looked at Peter. For a while, everything would be careful. He'd ask before moving a coffee cup. I'd over-explain every reaction. Then one day we'd get tired, and we'd decide the problem had passed. "That sounds pessimistic," Peter said. "It sounds familiar." "What do you imagine would happen if you didn't return?" Helen asked. I looked down at my wedding ring. The marriage would end. Peter's body shifted as if the couch had moved beneath him. "So that's where we are," he said. "I think that's where we've been." He stood and went to the water machine. This time, he didn't drink. He held the paper cup between both hands. "I have done everything you asked," he said. "I'm not saying that to keep score. It sounds like scorekeeping." I told Lacey to move. I corrected my family. I apologized. I came here. I sit in this room every week and let both of you examine why I'm defective. Helen said, "I haven't called you defective. You don't have to." I said, "This isn't about making you defective. Then what is it about? Knowing whether you understand what you did. I was lonely. I was angry. I said things I shouldn't have said. You turned the people I loved into witnesses against me. I told my family how I felt. You told them a version of why, because that was the version I believed. Do you still believe it?" He crushed the paper cup. "No," he said. The answer came too fast. I heard it. Helen heard it. Peter heard us hearing it. Helen asked, What part do you still believe?" He threw the cup into the wastebasket. "I believe Mara's service had consequences for our marriage that I was not allowed to resent." "You were allowed to resent them," I said. "You weren't allowed to assign them all to me. How was I supposed to resent a deployment without resenting the person who made it possible? By remembering I was living through it too. You had purpose. You had a mission. You had people around you who understood exactly what you were doing, and you think that meant I didn't lose anything. I think you knew how to be there better than you knew how to be here." The room went very still. I said, "Maybe I did." Peter's anger faltered. "That isn't a confession," I continued. "It doesn't make what you did right. But I won't lie to keep you wrong in every way." He sat again, farther from me than before. Our session ended without a next appointment. In the parking lot, Peter did not walk me to my truck. "I need a break from that room," he said. "All right? How long? You're asking me?" He looked toward the street. "I don't know how to keep proving something when the person judging me doesn't know what proof would look like. I'm not judging you. You're deciding whether I'm safe enough to love." The sentence landed because it was partly true. "I already love you," I said, "then decide whether that matters." He walked away before I could answer. Peter did not message me that night. He did not message Friday. Saturday afternoon, Lacey sent a photograph of the red front door. Peter had removed the hardware, sanded the weathered paint, and laid fresh color across the wood. The brass lock shone against it. I stared until my screen dimmed. Then Peter sent one message: "Come see it." I drove over near sunset. The green curtains were back in the front windows. The round mirror leaned against the porch wall, waiting to be carried away. Through the glass, I could see my chair at the head of the table and the final lily gone. Peter opened the door before I used my key. He had paint on both forearms. "I fixed it," he said. The red door gleamed between us, beautiful and wet around the edges. I touched the new brass lock. "You fixed the door," I said. His face changed. Behind him, the restored house waited in perfect silence, looking almost exactly the way it had before I left. That was when I understood Peter was trying to return me to a marriage he had recreated only after there was no one else left inside it. Peter stepped back to let me enter. The paint smell followed us into the hall. He had replaced the round mirror with our wedding photograph, not realizing I had taken the original. The frame on the wall held another picture from the same day, Peter serious for once, me looking away because someone had called my name. "You had a second one," I said, "in the album." "You went through the album?" I was looking for one that fit the frame. Of course he was. The living room had been returned to its old arrangement, green curtains, couch against the long wall. My photographs no longer grouped on one shelf. Even the entry table had moved back beneath the wedding picture. A cardboard box sat near the stairs. Lacey was written across the top in Peter's block letters. A pink toothbrush protruded between the flaps. He noticed me looking. "She left some things, and now they're in a box with her name. She doesn't live here anymore. Neither do I." His face tightened. "That's what I'm trying to change." I walked into the kitchen. The wine glasses were back in their old cabinet. Mixing bowls occupied the upper shelf. Peter had returned the tools and batteries to the drawer beside the stove, leaving the napkins where they were because, irritatingly, Lacey had been right about that. "You moved everything," I said. "You wanted it back. I wanted to matter while it was changing. You did matter. Not enough to be consulted. I can't go back and consult you now, I know." Peter pulled off the apron he'd been wearing for the paint and draped it over a chair. "Then what am I supposed to do with things I can't undo? Understand them." "I do understand. The house looks like Lacey never lived here. I thought you'd like that." "Why?" "Because you hated what she changed. I hated being erased. Erasing her doesn't fix it." His hands opened in frustration. "So I should put the craft tables back? No. Move the couch again? No. Take down the curtains? This is not about the curtains. You noticed the curtains before you said hello, because you put the entire house back like a stage set and expected me to walk into my old mark." He looked toward the front room. "I wanted you to see that there's room for you," he said. "There's room now because Lacey left. I asked her to leave for you, after I refused to come home. Yes, Mara, actions happen after reasons. I don't know how else time is supposed to work." I leaned against the counter. The setting sun shone through the kitchen window and caught dust over the sink. Peter had restored every visible thing and forgotten to wipe the cabinet doors. A pale ring marked where Lacey's soap dispenser had stood. "I think you want the house to prove something neither of us believes yet," I said. "What don't you believe? That I'm safe here when my life costs you something." His expression shifted from anger to hurt. "You keep using that word. Safe? Like I'm dangerous. Contempt is dangerous. I never had contempt for you. You let your family make me selfish because it made your pain easier to carry," I corrected them. "You did. I admitted it in counseling. You did. I'm standing here asking you to come home. You are." He laughed once, exhausted. "You agree with every fact and reject the conclusion. Because the facts don't add up to the conclusion you want. What conclusion do you want?" "I don't know." He turned away and gripped the edge of the sink. The muscles across his back tightened beneath his t-shirt. "You came here," he said. "Why?" "You asked me to see the door. I thought you'd understand." "I do understand. You sanded it. You repainted it the color we chose. You put on a new lock. I did it myself." "I know." I remembered the hinges. I closed my eyes. "The first hinges were cheap," he continued. "You wanted the solid brass ones, and I said no one would notice. You said we would notice every time we opened it. I remember, so I bought the good ones." His voice cracked on the final word. I crossed the kitchen and stood behind him. For a second, I almost touched his back. Then he turned. His eyes were red. "I remember us," he said. "You act like I'm trying to reconstruct a crime scene. I'm trying to remember us. I took the wedding picture because I'm trying too." He stared at me. "You took it? It's at June's." "Why?" "Because I needed proof that we didn't imagine being happy." The tension in his shoulders loosened. He reached for me, stopped, and dropped his hand. "I don't know how to do this," he said. "Neither do I." "Do you want something to eat?" The question was so ordinary I almost laughed. "Not yet. Coffee? No. Wine? Maybe." He opened a bottle. We carried our glasses to the dining room and sat beside each other at the table. The place where Lacey's chair had stood looked slightly lighter than the floor around it. Peter turned his glass without drinking. When the first rumors started, he said, "That your unit might be activated. Do you remember what I asked?" I remembered. We had been in the garage. I was replacing a loose belt on the mower while Peter built cabinet doors. He asked what would happen if I simply said I couldn't go. I told him mobilization didn't work that way. He asked whether anything could stop it, and I listed the narrow circumstances that might. "You asked about a hardship exemption," I said. "You answered like I'd asked for the weather. I'd already researched it. You didn't tell me that? I didn't qualify." That wasn't the point. What was? I wanted you to say you didn't want to go. I did say that, eventually. I thought it was obvious. It wasn't. I drank the wine. It tasted too sweet. Peter rubbed his thumb along the stem of his glass. "I wanted you to try to get out of it," he said. "On what grounds?" "I don't know. You keep saying that, but you must have imagined something." He looked at the table. "I imagined you telling them your marriage needed you. That was not a qualifying hardship." "I know. Did you want me to lie?" "No." "What then?" "I wanted you to choose me." The house seemed to hold its breath. "I couldn't choose you instead of orders," I said. "I know that now. You knew it then. I knew the rules. That's not the same thing." "Peter, I wanted you to refuse anyway." He looked at me. "Even if they said no, even if it was impossible, I wanted to see you fight to stay. And if I had, I would have known I came first. First before what? My unit? My career? The people I was responsible for? Yes. The answer was quiet and terrible. He closed his eyes. No, he said. That isn't right. It's what I wanted, but it isn't right. I stood and walked to the window. Outside, the grass needed cutting. A limb had fallen near the fence. Ordinary maintenance. Things that became worse if ignored. If I'd left the guard after re-enlisting, I would have hated myself, I said. I know, I might have hated you. I know that too. Would that have made you feel chosen? No. I turned. Peter's face had folded in on itself. He wasn't defending the contradiction. He was sitting inside it. When you got the orders, everyone told me how proud I must be, he said, and I was proud. I went to the meetings. I made lists. I told people we were ready. I wanted to be the kind of husband who could do that. You were, until it cost me. He looked around the dining room. I liked being proud when pride got me handshakes and pictures and people saying we were strong. Then you left, and the house broke, and you missed our anniversary, and every time I needed you, you had 7 minutes. Loving your service cost me something, and I started keeping track. I sat again, across from him this time. Why didn't you tell me? Because you were already gone. Because saying I was angry sounded pathetic. Because Lacey understood without making me explain. So you told her it was my choice. The first time I said you had known deployment was possible when you re-enlisted. And then, Mom agreed. That felt good. Yes. The admission barely had sound. Every time someone told me how hard it must be, he continued, I added a little more. You were ambitious. You wanted the opportunity. You loved the work. None of it was completely false, but together it was a lie. Yes. He finally drank the wine. When you called and fixed things, he said, I felt relieved. Then I felt angry that you could still run the house from Kuwait. I wanted you, but I also wanted proof we could function without you. Lacey gave me that. And when I came back, you walked in and saw everything. You expected me not to. I expected you to be grateful we'd kept things going. I was supposed to thank you for replacing me. I didn't think of it that way, because you weren't the one replaced. He nodded. No defense, no exhausted argument about fairness. I punished you, he said. My fingers tightened around the wine glass. I don't mean I planned it. I didn't sit down and decide to hide your pictures or give Lacey your office. I just stopped protecting your place here. Every time something changed, I told myself you weren't using it. And every time the family talked about how I'd survived, I let them. He looked directly at me. I wanted you to come home and see that leaving had consequences. The sentence hurt with surgical precision. I had consequences every day, I said. I know, I missed you until it felt physical. I know, I counted the hours to calls you thought were too short. I know. I came home afraid I wouldn't fit back into my own life, and you made that fear real. His face crumpled. I know, he whispered. I know now. I looked toward the hall. The red door stood closed, the good brass hinges hidden from where we sat. Peter crossed the space between us and knelt beside my chair. I was proud of you when it made me look generous, he said. I resented you when being your husband required sacrifice, and instead of admitting I was lonely and scared, I made your service a betrayal. He did not ask whether that was the right answer. He did not offer a corrected office or a move-out date. I'm sorry, he said. Not for how it sounded. Not because you left. I'm sorry for what I did. I believed him. That was the worst and best thing he could have given me. I put my hand against his cheek. He covered it with his own and cried quietly, his forehead against my knee. I cried too. Not the wild exhaustion that had taken me beside June's bed. This grief was slower. It had names. After a while, we sat on the floor with our backs against the dining room wall. Peter opened the olives he had bought for Sunday dinner. We ate them from the jar with forks and talked until the windows went black. I told him about the night before I left, how I stood in the laundry room holding one of his shirts because I didn't want him to see me panic. He told me he had heard me and stayed in bed because he thought I wanted privacy. I wanted you to come in, I said. I wanted you to ask me. We both laughed, though nothing was funny. Near midnight, Peter asked, "Is there a way back?" I looked at the restored room, the returned curtains, the space where Lacey's chair had been. "I don't know." He nodded. This time, he did not ask me to make the answer kinder. I slept beside him, fully dressed, above the blankets. He did not touch me except once, near dawn, when his fingers found mine between us. I held them until the room began to lighten. When I stood to leave, Peter walked me to the red door. He looked at the overnight bag I had never unpacked. "Will you come back?" he asked. "I have to find out whether I'm missing you or missing who we were." His eyes closed briefly. "All right," he said. He opened the door for me. For the first time since I returned, he let me leave without calling it abandonment. June was making coffee when I came down her stairs. She took one look at my overnight bag and handed me a mug. "You stayed." "Yes." "Did he behave?" "Yes." That sounded disappointed. It isn't. I sat at her kitchen table. June's house was older than the garage apartment and less orderly. A stack of plumbing catalogs occupied one chair. 3 unmatched socks lay on the radiator. I had spent weeks upstairs believing she lived in disciplined solitude. Apparently, she had simply pushed her chaos downstairs. "He finally said it," I told her. "Said what?" "That he wanted me to refuse the deployment, even knowing I couldn't. He wanted me to prove I would choose him first." June poured coffee into her own mug. And he knows it was wrong. "Do you believe him?" "Yes." She sat across from me. "That's good. It doesn't feel good. Truth usually has terrible bedside manner." I stared into my coffee. "He apologized," I said. "Really apologized. Also good. I still don't know if I can go back." June lifted one shoulder. "An honest apology tells you what happened. It doesn't tell you what to do next. That sounds like advice. It's too early for advice." Peter gave me room. For the first week after that night, he sent no photographs, invitations, or dying plant updates. He texted good morning and good night. If I answered, he answered back. If I didn't, he let the silence remain mine. We returned to counseling the following Thursday. Peter sat beside me on the couch instead of at the far end. He told Helen what he had admitted at the dining room table. He did not polish it. He did not say loneliness had made him do it, though loneliness had. He said he had punished me for failing an impossible test I had never agreed to take. Helen asked what I felt hearing him say it again. "Relieved," I said. Peter looked at me. "And sad," I added. His hand turned palm up between us. I placed mine in it. We kept meeting. At first, every session felt like standing beneath bright inspection lights. Then the conversations became quieter. We talked about our anniversary, the calls I turned into lists, the way Peter made resentment respectable by calling it sacrifice. I apologized for expecting him to decode every feeling I was afraid to name. He apologized without using my failures to reduce his own. He changed in ways that did not look like a restored room. When Evelyn called me crying because I had declined Sunday dinner, Peter told her to give me space instead of asking me to reassure her. When Lacey's new shelves collapsed, he helped reinstall them, but went home afterward rather than staying until she fed him and made him necessary. He stopped describing my separation as something being done to him. The changes were real. So was the fact that every time I drove toward the red door, my shoulders tightened. Peter and I had dinner twice. We took a walk along the river. We sat in his truck outside the cabinet shop and shared French fries from a paper bag. We laughed more easily once we stopped trying to use every good moment as evidence that the marriage was repaired. He kissed me only when I asked. I missed him when we were apart. When we were together, I missed the person I had been before I learned what he could make of my absence. At work, I stopped checking behind Sam's decisions for signs of displacement. I let him keep the plain white dividers because they worked. When a brake chamber failed with a sound like a rifle crack, I jumped but remained standing. Curtis looked at me, waited, then said, Loud noise in retrospect. You're improving, I told him. So is the bus. Unit 53 broke down the next day. Curses relapse, Sam said. Life at June's became less temporary without my noticing. I bought a bath mat. I replaced the dangerous outlet beside the bed after June admitted she had been planning to get around to it since the previous tenant. I bought a small table, removing the left chair from its emotional role. The wedding photograph remained beside my bed. The old house key, the one that no longer opened anything, sat on the kitchen counter beside the new one. I picked it up some mornings and remembered the first red door, the cheap hinges, the pizza on the floor. I could miss the beginning without owing it an endless future. Peter asked for an answer after our 7th counseling session, not as an ultimatum. That would have been easier. We were leaving Helen's office when he said, I need to know whether we're working toward living together again or learning how to separate without destroying each other. I looked at him beneath the stairwell light. I know. Do you? Yes. He waited. I need to say it at the house, I told him. The red door had weathered to a deeper color after the new paint dried. I used my key and entered without knocking. Peter was in the kitchen. 2 mugs sat on the table, coffee already poured. He had known I would not stay long enough for dinner. We sat across from each other. I love you, I said. He lowered his head. That sounds like a beginning people use before something terrible. I don't want to hide it behind anger. Then don't. I love you. I believe your apology. I believe you understand what you did. But I can't come home. He wrapped both hands around his mug. Can't yet? No. His eyes closed. The refrigerator hummed. A truck passed outside, briefly rattling the glass in the front windows. Is it because of the guard? He asked. It's because of what happened when the guard cost you something. I know better now. Yes. You don't think people can change? I think you have changed. Then why isn't that enough? Because change doesn't always restore what taught it. He looked at me. I had rehearsed several versions at June's. None survived his face. Your loneliness might have been survivable, I said. We could have been angry. We could have gone to counseling. We could have fought for a year and still found each other. But you turned loneliness into contempt, Peter. You made me selfish so everyone would understand why you resented me. You gave away my place in this house, 1 drawer at a time, and expected me to be grateful when you put it back. I know. I can forgive you and still know I can't live here. His mouth tightened. I don't know how to be sorry enough for that. You already are. That doesn't help. No. He stared at the coffee. What if I wait? For what? For you to trust me again. I do trust you in some ways. Not enough. Not in the way a marriage needs. The honesty landed without drama. Peter nodded once, slowly, as if confirming an instruction he hated but understood. I kept thinking recognition would matter, he said. It does. I thought if I finally said exactly what I'd done, you'd see I wasn't that person anymore. I do see that. And it still ends. Yes. He stood and walked to the sink. For a moment, I thought he might throw the mug. He rinsed it instead, set it carefully in the dishwasher, and gripped the counter until his knuckles whitened. I'm angry, he said. You're allowed. I want to tell you you're giving up. I know. I want to tell you we survived worse. We didn't. We functioned through worse. He bowed his head. I hate that you're right, he said. I hate that being right doesn't make this easier. When he turned, tears ran openly down his face. I crossed the kitchen. We held each other beside the sink, the same place where he had once broken a jar of olives because I missed a call. His body shook against mine. Mine did too. No one won. Once we settled the house, Peter stayed. He could afford it if he accepted more cabinet work and stopped pretending paperwork completed itself. I took my desk, my photographs, the blue stoneware mug, and the tools that had belonged to my father. I left the green curtains. They belonged to the light in that room. Rob helped move the desk and complained that emotional labor should come with pizza. Melissa brought pizza. Danny arrived with packing tape and apologized until Melissa told him to carry something heavy. Lacey came too. Her online shop had survived the smaller apartment. The bakery downstairs knew her order, and delivery drivers had learned to leave boxes beside the rattling window. She gave me a wooden sign as a housewarming gift. It said, "This is a normal amount of stuff." "I made it custom," she said. "I can tell. Peter thinks it's mean. Peter owns an apron that asks people to kiss him for cabinetry. Fair." Evelyn brought sandwiches and did not reorganize anything. Before leaving, she hugged me and said, "I'm sorry," without waiting for an answer. I hugged her back, which was not the same as saying everything was repaired. She seemed to understand. The place I chose was a modest 2-bedroom bungalow 12 minutes from the transit depot. The kitchen was too narrow, the bathroom tile was an unfortunate shade of peach, and the front door was gray. June and I painted it blue. "Red was taken," she said, rolling paint onto the lower panel. "I like blue." "You're allowed to like blue without it symbolizing recovery." "I know. It does, though. Paint." By the time the paperwork on the marriage was finished, the blue had darkened into something steady, not cheerful, not sad, just mine. I kept the old useless house key in the kitchen drawer beside spare batteries and takeout menus. I could have thrown it away. I didn't need to prove I had forgotten the lock in order to stop trying it. On the first Sunday, I invited people for dinner. June arrived early with beer. Sam brought a salad large enough for a maintenance bay. Lacey carried bread from the bakery downstairs. Melissa and Rob argued on the porch about whether a bottle of wine counted as a host gift if Rob intended to drink most of it. Peter came before the others. He stood outside the blue door holding a small cardboard box. "I found the rest of your things," he said. Inside were 2 books, a scarf, the brass tape measure my father had given me, and one of the cheap original hinges from the red door. "I thought you might want that," he said. "I do." He looked past me at the voices in the kitchen. "Dinner?" "Yes, I won't stay." I nodded. He touched the blue door with 2 fingers. "Good hinges?" "The best." He smiled. For a few seconds, neither of us moved. "Is there any route back?" he asked. The question held no demand. That was how I knew his change had lasted beyond losing me. I touched his face. "No." He nodded, eyes shining. "I understand," he said. "I know." He kissed my forehead and walked down the path without looking back. I watched until his truck disappeared. Then I stepped inside. Rob called from the kitchen, "Are these napkins in a sensible place or a hostile place?" "Second drawer beside the stove." I found batteries. "Other side. I'm filing a complaint." Laughter moved through the little house. I closed the blue door softly and turned the lock. For the first time, the sound was not someone keeping me out. It was me deciding who came in.